from. My name is Kalu, and this is the X Spaces with me. And on this space, of course, we're talking money, financial planning, and of course, the economy. But we want to keep it personal. How do the news of the day, the tops of the day, how does it affect your personal wallet, right? When you hear all that highfalutin language, how and what does it mean to your wallet? That's what we're talking about today. Well, today or this week is September, so that means we're at quarter three, about to enter the last quarter of the year. So it was a good time every quarter to review what's happened in the past quarter, right? So that's what we're going to do today. But I want to sort of narrow that focus more into, say, looking at the bank returns, looking at the CBN specifically. If we've got more time, of course, we're going to cover more topic, but I'll also just focus on that. I've got my guest with me, Olumide, always available to come and give us his intake and his insights, on investing in Nigeria. So, Olumide, hi, you want to unmute and say hi, then we can just kick off. We've got lots of folks wanting to ask questions already.
Yeah, thanks for that. So my name is Olumide Addition. I'm just a market analyst, writer, journalist, trader. I work with different investment firms. I'm based in Europe and pretty much make sense of what's happening in the market. Thanks for having me, Carly.
Right, great, Olumide. So, the first thing I want to talk about is just to talk about the economy as a whole. I pulled up the dashboard. I don't know if you saw it when I shared it right on the profile. The dashboard for the economy. Let's do the economy, then go into the banks, right? For the economy, right, nothing has changed really. If you focus on the key macroeconomic indicators of Nigeria, inflation, GDP, unemployment, those big numbers on top, nothing has changed. If you then drill down and say you want to talk about, say, the policies, right, the fuel subsidy, it's back. You talk about the dollar forex liberalization policy. It's not working. So just on those aspects alone, the global economy, i.e. in Nigeria, the inflation, the exchange rate, it doesn't seem that the policies which we applauded, which we said was the right thing to do, it does not look like they are working at the moment. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I share the same sentiment with you, Carl, and particularly because of the way the optics have been played. So first of all, if you look at the key macros, particularly using market indicators, one will look as if because the market has rallied by over 30% this year, outperforming inflation rate, it looks like it's reflecting. But the reality is that taking a macro look at results, you will see that consumption is weak. You also see that the purchasing any of the country has reduced drastically. In fact, the Minister of Finance highlighted that when he was making his presentation a couple of weeks ago, that the country's revenue dropped from $80 billion to $25 billion. Now, if you take a deeper look at that, you will see that that's why, unsurprisingly, a wealth asset management company said that the amount of Nigerians with a net worth above $100 million is just about 27, and those that have $1 million upward in the country are just less than 10,000. That was even before the devaluation of that, and that's because pretty much the consumption power of the middle class has shrunk for many reasons. First, we've seen migration has recorded. Nigeria is one of the fastest moving immigrants to key countries, particularly the United Kingdom and Western countries. So that also has shrunk our middle class. And when our middle class shrinks, the economy is pivotal on the middle class. That has also affected country's revenue. Also, you look at the fact that food inflation right now, latest data shows that it's about 30%. So residual income has reduced drastically. And the sad part about it is that the president, despite his good intentions, as you said, I think communication and the understanding on how the federal government really works is not yet. So I'll give you a good example. If you look at the petrol subsidy, he said outrightly that there was going to be no subsidy at all. So we're expecting that market fluctuation, there will be correlation between the price of petrol and the price of crude oil. At some point, we saw crude oil prices, particularly when the Saudis and the Russians reduced output by over 1 million barrels a day, pushing crude oil prices over $90. And one was surprised that why was petrol prices becoming stagnant? And looking at also the fact that the naira, the black market, when most of these marketers get their FX, was trading above the 100. So when you do the simple mathematics, you see that oil prices should be at petrol price should be at least now 750 to 800. So it means subsidy is in play, and that also tells you that we are not saving really from what we are seeing.
Yeah, look there, and let me just also to emphasize what you're saying. When Tinubu came, the first word he said as a president was subsidy is gone, and we know what happened. The prices went up. There was a lot of change in the economy, inflation, all that came into play, right? Now, when the subsidy left, we got the 1 trillion naira distribution to FARC, because then NNPC was able to sell and to remit the excess, because we're not paying this subsidy. That excess remittance was made to FARC. The states got that 1 trillion that they were able to share. Then somewhere down the line, of course, they refused to do palliatives, and of course, the Nigerian populace became, increasingly agitated. As a political decision, they went back and then backtracked the palliatives. And then he made a promise, the president made a promise that there will no longer be a price increase. Right now, crude oil is doing $93 a barrel. 93. So it's gone up. So if there was no subsidy, the 1 trillion we even shared last time would be a joke, because now we're going to have even maybe 1.5 trillion to share. But as fuel price is going to go up to 93, the NNPC, or however metric they're going to use, is going to subsidize that price at the pumps, which means the fiscal deficits are back, inflation is back, there's going to be no savings at the CBN level. If I was a trader and I see this, of course, then the Naira float can't work, which CBN is doing, because CBN then has no dollars to defend that peg, more or less. That's how I look at it. So the exchange rate is tied inextricably to the oil price, which is tied to supply. When I'm talking about the supply illuminate that is happening, the fall in supply decrease, we're just saying the policy of crude oil going up and the president saying no more increase in prices has reintroduced subsidy and has killed off the reforms they want to do in the FX markets. That's my take.
Yeah, but just to add up to what you said, bright nugget to retreat. But the key thing here is that, first of all, the CBN had the wrong message to the FX market, and that was because they said that they were going to pay. I think somebody's mic is on.
Let me see.
Olua.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So the CBN governor some weeks ago said that they were going to clear the FX backlog within 2 weeks. The market knew that was really not going to happen. So we saw increased buying pressure on the greenback. Also, if you look at the way we...
What was that about? Why did the CBNs tell Nigeria that they're going to clear $10 billion in 2 weeks? What was that about?
I wish I could answer the question, because honestly, they needed to understand that JP Morgan and Fitch Rating have exposed their balance sheet with a spot-on analysis on how the country is exposed to swaps fraud and debt obligations. Interestingly again, FT, there's a UK research firm, FTS Russell. They also downgraded Nigerian stock market, and that was really very heavy. But the reason why it didn't really materialize is that if you look at local participation in the Nigerian stock market, it's nearly 90%. So it means that just 10% goes to foreign investors. That was why we pretty much saw some moderation. Then the market picked up again. So I think the problem right now is that the crude oil output we even calculate, we are adding condensates, and condensate is a low type of hydrocarbon. So if you look at the revenue, and knowing fully well that Nigeria just takes about 40%, because it's a kind of joint venture, we don't really own all the production cap, so it's a sharing formula. Then one would start to wonder that how will the president manage this economy? And I recently was a bit worried that the political reforms that we are all begging for, because right now we're having close to 48 ministers, we're having some cabinet positions that really looks needless in the Nigerian economy. For heaven's sake, our revenue was 25 billion. iPad, a division of Apple, made 29 billion. That just tells you how consumption is weak for a country like Nigeria. And pretty much why this is becoming very scary is that there's a meeting on Wednesday. The US Fed is meeting on Wednesday. If the US Fed keeps the narrative about holding rates and also increasing rates in the mid-long term, the Naira at 1,000 will just be a matter of short term. So we are really having a lot of odds. And debts, our debts right now, and DMO said our debts over 80, sorry, it's over our debts. I can't remember the number right now, but if you look at it, what really scares me is that next year, they are going to start meeting our Eurobond obligation to 2024 and 2025. That's when most of our obligations. So where's the fund for us to even meet those obligations? And the Eurobond market is not attractive right now because of the way the dollar is. So I feel that the country really has to start squeezing on the political reforms, because right now, the fact that we have not been able to sell our assets, NNPC, and the fact that we are taking a lot of political charade, making political announcements while the economy is shaking, and we are just getting carried away by the FX evaluation gains of Nigerian banks, knowing fully well that a number of companies are delisting on the Nigerian stock market. Just between the last 10 years alone, we've lost 350 billion on listed companies on the stock market, and increasingly it's getting worse. GSK, Owanto said they were going to go, but it still looks like they're still in the market. They're saying PZ, they're pushing, although those ones are saying that it makes more sense to be private. So these are confusions that are putting a lot of local investors in the point of panorama.
And again, just to emphasize the point that you just made, right? From next year, the Euro bonds that we borrowed, what we're doing is this to service the Euro bonds. So we've been paying dollars to service. We're going to start to repay the principals. I think it's about 1 point something billion we're going to repay in dollars to settle the Euro bonds. That's one. The US Fed, like you've mentioned, if the US Fed raises rates or keeps rates up, right now in the US, if you take, you go to walk into any bank in the US, you can invest at 5% dollar APY, risk-free, guaranteed by the federal government of America. 5%. So why would an American come to Nigeria at 8%, at 6%, at 7%, which is what our bonds are paying, when he can stay in America and earn 5%, no risk, guaranteed by the federal government? I'm talking about any bank in the US, full guarantee. So you see the pressure that's still in Nigeria. Our oil sales production is 1.18, not even 2, 1.18. This is the one we have managed to produce that is not being bunkered and sold illegally. So oil prices at 93 barrels, we're producing less, and we're even bunkering the one that we're producing. Now you then come to the reforms. The reforms were supposed to, when we take away the subsidy, we're then able to make savings from the dollars. If we then make savings from the dollar sale of crude oil, it affects the FX rate, because the FX rate then improves, and then that helps inflation, that helps purchasing power, that even helps wages, because then you can then see more SMEs restarting. That's employment. But right now, we have 25% inflation. This is core. This is just 20, not food. Inflation alone is 25%. You can't save if inflation is 25%. It doesn't make any sense to save. So no savings from the federal, from the households. That's Nigeria right now. And we have a debt coming up. And then the president has pulled back the reforms that we all applauded when he first came in. So we've gone from very fast to very slow. And then the unfortunate issues of the UAE thing now brings in trust. People don't know that trust. Maybe these guys know what they're doing. So I'm not very comfortable. The economy. Let's move to the economic team before we get to CBN. We now have a designate for CBN governor, Mr. Cardoso. We have the chief economic advisor, now Minister of the coordinating of the economy, Mr. Yemedu. Two good guys. I mean good. We know their pedigree. We know they know the job. So round hole, round peg, and all. Do you have any confidence? I mean, do you agree with me that these are perhaps good picks at the moment for those positions?
I think if you say their personality, Carlos definitely has a pedigree. You know, his father was even one of the top accountant general of the country. I think the first time.
The first
accountant general of the country, his father. And if you look at the fact that he also worked with the president, and there was a time the president even shortlisted him with Osibajo and Wale Edun when President Buhari wanted to select his vice president. He tells you that these are his loyalists. And also look at Wale Edun. But you see, my problem here is not about round. See, I want us to look at the CBN in the last 20 years. These guys, those that have performed woefully and those that have done their job have, yes, they have a strong pedigree. There's no central bank of Nigeria, even that we say that, had not done his onions. The problem we've had has been character, attitude, and the political, the discipline to carry this policy. And you see, my fear here is that the president needs to understand that he came to power with 1/3 of the vote cast. So, 1/3. And so your appointment looks like, especially in the economy, looks like one section of the country. So while many people might not want to talk about it and look at it, this thing, you see, when people have, you see, one of the key successes of many leaders, particularly the first civilian president in the Fourth Republic of Russia, was the fact that he was able to pick people around different geopolitical zones. You see, on paper, these guys are competent, but you also have to understand that this is not Lagos State, this is Nigeria. The FRS, the Accountant General, the Minister of Finance, the CBN Governor, from one zone. So the question is, how do you sell your... so that's one. Secondly, I'm very concerned about the selection of some of the players in the CBN team. For example, the one that served under El-Rufai as the Chief of Staff Commissioner. You see, my problem is that if you understood one of Emefiele's downfall, he brought politics to the Apex Bank. And you remember that the National Assembly during President Buhari wanted to pass a bill that the CBN's team must be apolitical. We understood why we wanted to do that, because the monetary integrity of the country plays a very key role on the Nigerian economy, and the CBN pretty much does that. So that's one of my problems. And finally, I think the fact that we had to be chasing to get facts, no official channel to give us updates about the suspended central bank governor. We didn't even, we are seeing things from the social media team of those close to the presidency and things like that. Until Reuters even reported sources, we did not see those sources announced. So it's an embarrassment to many people in the financial community, particularly in the media, that we can't even have a full grip of the most important part of the Nigerian economy. So I think the president really needs to work on that. And though we wish those guys the best, but I feel that we should really leave their CVs. I think it's less has to do with CV. Toledo came to the CBN governor with little or no banking experience, but he has been one of the best performing CBN governor because he had the will to fight the banking industry. He had the will to position, to install discipline. And since then, pretty much, we've not really had such performance. So what the Nigerian system really needs is not just people with Western bright CVs. We need people that are competent, that can take the needs of the industry. First, we know that the banks really need monitoring. We also know that the CBN and the fiscal side, the relationship has been too smooth. We need somebody who can fight. So my question is, would Yemi Cardoso, will he be able to hit back at President Tinubu in things like, are we expecting to see that? Because the CBN Act really plays importance on the independency, despite the fact we know that There's nothing like absolute independence of the central bank.
You're right. And let me play on the side of the others. Let me go to the other side and comment. If I was the president, I would do exactly what he has done. I would try to put my man in the CBN, in the Ministry of the Economy, in the revenues. I'll put my loyalists there. So that's, if I was him, that's what I'll do. But most importantly, I think people forget that President Tinubu's manifesto says he wants to delink oil prices, the benchmark crude oil from spending. So he wants to do an expansionary budget. He wants to spend a lot. They're going to print a lot and spend a lot. So this is laying the framework for that. Unless he has changed what's in the manifesto that he published. They say, they want to delink the benchmark. So his first budget is going to be very interesting to see how they're going to basically spend, which is this is Keynesian, right? You spend money to reflect the economy, to reflect spending. The problem is that what I've seen him do with the stimulus on the palliative side has been awful. You want to stimulate spending, you print 500 billion and you give to states to go buy rice locally. I don't think any economist advised him that if you do that, you're going to get local price of food up, and local price of food is what drives inflation. So that scares me that no one advised him that you shouldn't do it that way. I'm always on Twitter saying you have to do a limited import policy. People come and say, oh, you are importing, you're going to kill local farmers. There is no other way to get prices down in 3 to 6 months unless you import. I don't know this fear Nigerians have with import. The US imports food. China imports food. If you want to get the food prices down 3 to 6 months, you have got to import. Why is it important? Because food inflation drives inflation in Nigeria, and inflation is 25%. So looking at going back to what you said about CBN board, on Twitter, I read on Twitter that the entire board has resigned. So the MFLA's board has resigned. I read that MFLA has also resigned on Twitter. Haven't been confirmed anyone. I've seen the new nominations for the CBN governor and the new board. Like you said, I personally argue that at this time, Nigerians don't really care about the academic qualifications of the CBN governor. I argue you don't need to be an economist to be the CBN governor. Any CEO, your job is number 1, vision, number 2, sales, which means that you can be advised by your board. This is what to do, this is not what to do. Then your force of personality then goes through. Nigerians today want a CBN governor that will say no to politicians. So we don't have a repeat of printing 31 trillion, or is it 20 trillion, for the executive to spend at will. That's the number 1 trait Nigerians want in the governor, to say no. If the CBN governor can say no, he has passed 99% of what Nigerians are looking for. This present board, like Lumley highlighted, they're not going to say no to the president, and that's why he put them there. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It means he put them there not to say no. Cardoso on book is good, but he won't say no. So get ready for an expansionary fiscal regime. Again, it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that's what they are going to do. So get ready. Olinda, you mentioned 1,000 naira to a dollar because you're talking about the Fed. You're talking about
so three things. So the reason why I have a pessimistic outlook on the naira is based on 2 analyses. With the central bank governor included, like you said, first of all, if you understood what happened between Powell and Donald Trump, despite the fact Donald Trump appointed Powell, you could see that Powell tried to fight for the dependency of the US Fed. At some point, Donald Trump wanted to sack him. That just tells you how that institution fights for their credibility. My pessimism about the naira comes from the fact for 3 things. Our FX liquidity is still very dry. Secondly, the economy still has a lot of leaks. If you look at the outgoing CBN governor, what he said that it's not that there is no dollar in circulation. The dollar is going through unofficial channels. It's not going through, and that's why partly the P2P and other markets are very liquid. If you want to change the dollar right now, very easy, you can. The best way to go to P2P. Remittance, they third one is that remittance across board from Mexico, India is not doing as much as we saw in 2020. And the reason is because inflation has eaten around emerging markets, so residual income has definitely been negatively affected with mortgage rates on the high. So we are not going to likely get that support we got in 20. It's very unlikely, except magic happens this quarter. So these are things that we are fighting against. So I don't see the magic on how the CBN, except it comes with a policy on making sense of the deposits, the domiciliary deposits in our banks, or putting charges on domiciliary, or trying to make creative points, because those are their options are limited right now. That's why my outlook is a 1,000 is because I said it 2 weeks ago. I made an analysis on Nairametrics Clubhouse. I said if the CBN governor doesn't keep his word on fixing the FX backlog, we're going to see 950 in play. Now, what happened in Dubai again now is a bigger embarrassment, because we're not just now in the eyes of the community. It just shows that competition just pretty much might be for the optics, and that definitely is not looking good, because Dubai also has a very important say in financial market. In fact, the likes of JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, they are moving shops to Dubai. So I think the president needs to take control of those that pass financial information very importantly, and be very, very sensitive on how he sends those things to the outside world. Particularly as it's going to the United States.
Well, look, when the president went to Dubai and they announced that he had met with him, to me, just going there alone, he has scored many points. And if you notice, even the opposition folks didn't really they were okay. Yeah, you went to Dubai, you are working for us. It's a good thing to go to Dubai. If they stopped there, it would have still been a win. The optics of him going to Dubai from India to fight for Nigerians' visa and all that, it was still a win. I'm not sure who gave them the authority, and this was everywhere. It was on Voice of America, it was even on Bloomberg, and they will put it there. Dubai has removed the visa. And it was a big win. Big win for the guy. And it's worse when you now find out it was not true. So, when we're all starting this talk, we're saying we need to get a point man who will speak. Spokesman doesn't mean you want to, that you should give untruth. Because when you give the untruth, you degrade going forward your influence, so to say. And I'm being very polite here. You should be very careful that you don't embarrass the president. Now, the president's embarrassed. And the country looks like we don't know what we're doing. Dubai is just politely saying, that's not what we said. And I have a metric, the Emirates airline metric. And I've said it here, the Emirates airline indicator. If you want to know if the government's FX policy is working, watch if Emirates Airlines flies back to Nigeria. If Emirates comes back to Nigeria, that means the FX, whatever CBN is doing, is working, because it means that they now have enough FX to not just pay Emirates, but to pay everybody, because IATA will not allow you just pay Emirates alone. So they're pulling out, that's your indicator right there. So I was like, interesting. 10 billion CBN was going to fund, and Emirates coming back. I said there's something happening that I didn't know about. That was my take. That there's something happening that I wasn't seeing. And I asked on Twitter, where is he going to get 10 billion from? Where? I don't want to say where I think it was going to, because I'm not scared on the space. There's only one place in Nigeria you can get $10 billion in 2 weeks. But I won't say it here. They don't say it, because I want to accuse us of saying it and causing wahala. Let's not look for trouble. But say of that, where else can you get the money? And again, look, the last call on this CBN board, I would have wished that they were sacked for not challenging Emefiele printing 27 trillion for the past government. I wish they were sacked on that, and every Nigerian knew that's why they were sacked, not arrested for having a Dane gun as they did the governor. I wish that the board will say, hey, we're removing you because this guy violated the CBN Act and you didn't stop him. So all of you are going. It will make more sense to me. Let me go ahead.
Yeah, I think I feel opposite view, because I think one of the things we need to understand that the financial institutions are much more different on how political institutions are being operated. So yes, we could say that they made mistakes and the fact that things were not done properly. But you see, you must do things in a proper way. Now, the central bank's credibility is at stake. We've seen so many damning reports from JP Morgan, Fitch Rating, and now the president's private special investigator had uncovered certain discrepancies about the CBN statement. I feel that the way the DSS humiliated the CBN governor, I feel that, and that's why I received personal attack. I don't know these guys personally. Most of my incomes don't come from Nigeria, but I feel like the way institutions are being strengthened is you allow the rule of law, despite political affiliations, to take its place. So you see, it looks like more like to some as witch hunting. It looks to some, different parties. And the most important thing is that when an institution lacks the trust, then it becomes very difficult to break barrier. So you saying that they should have been arrested and been sacked, I think it was a bit extreme for me. I think if the president really wanted to go, they have done it through the National Assembly. Should have made the process very and quite transparent. Then if you want police to arrest them, police can arrest them. But you see, the way these guys have been disgraced, I tell you for free. Sanusi's lawyer said something to Financial Times 2015, and I kept that thing in my NPM in my laptop. He said the President Jonathan, the way Sanusi was removed, is going to create a bad precedent. And we are seeing it, and it's already happening. Now, President Tinubu is not going to stay in power forever. That's what we need to understand. President Tinubu is not going to stay in power forever. We are going to have different kind of government. The president you set on Sanusi to Emefiele, now Cardoso comes in play. What tells us that will not be again? That's why we don't have successful institutions. That's why we don't have strong institutions, because we take actions based on political reactions, emotions. We don't take actions professionally. We should take. This is a respectable institution. This has one of the brightest people in the country. The CBN makes up one of the most important sectors in Nigeria. So it should be treated with, and that was why a lot of investors are like, if Emefiele can be treated like this, what kind of rule of law would my money be? And that's why we are seeing this kind of charade, and that's why investor sentiment is not really. So I'm not really in support of the person. I'm in support of the institution, and I feel that the institution should be respected. And how the institution can be respected is that due process must be aligned and properly carried. That's my own perception.
Yeah, I think my point is that I want them removed, but you should say they were removed because they broke the CBN Act. I'm not ready for them to be arrested by DSS. Has no business with the CBN, none at all. But I want them to say that they were removed because they broke the CBN Act. That's also rule of law. So tomorrow, this board now knows that if someone says we want to print money, then they'll be like, well, the act says you can't print money. That's the point. If you don't say the reason why, then what stops this new board from printing 25 trillion billion? Nothing. So I want them to say they broke the CBN Act, we're removing them. Again, you've seen DSS going after Olam. They have no business doing that. That's not their job. They're the secret police. It doesn't matter if they're doing the right thing. They have no business chasing down the state. The boys on Bloomberg, what they read is Nigeria's secret police has arrested the largest agricultural commodities trader in Nigeria. That's what they are going to read. I'm not sure why we don't appreciate that the actions we take locally show up in the foreign press, and it shows up and it affects our FDI. FDI now, Oga, is 48 billion. In Nigeria today, 48 billion. This is a country that was doing 3-4 billion casually. If you're now doing 48 billion. So Burna Boy are making more money FDI than the whole of Nigeria. And it's not, we have to be cognizant that optics matter. Optics matter. So yeah, very, very good point. Let's go to the banking side now. We spent about let's go to the banking side if you can only do. The results have been out. I think I want to talk about UBA specifically. Like, I especially was targeting UBA because number one, they're the only Nigerian bank in the US. they are one of the largest banks in terms of spread outside Nigeria, all across West Africa, China, the UK. So I wanted to see their results vis-a-vis what they would do in terms of this dollar FX rate. That's what I wanted to see, and I was not surprised. I called it a monster result. Monster result. If you look at the top of that result, you're looking at the FX gains, yes, but across the board, Lumide, they seem to still make it. Let me put the question this way. Let's talk about the UBA results first. Top down, I hear you're going to say FX gain, monster. It shows up in the trading gains, monster. But across the board, bank interest returns good, balance sheet also grown, deposits also grown. Just speaking of the results in itself, what's your take?
It's an outstanding result. One should give props to Tony Limodo's team. This is one of the best results this year, particularly just like you highlighted. We saw growth in different sectors. Look at non-interest income, where the FX valuation grew by 5 times from 78.5 billion in 2022 half year to over 505 billion naira. And if you look at interest income, where it takes investment securities, cash balance deposits, it also had a growth of 66%. But I think the magic here is that the Emefiele strategy, if you look at it compared to different banks, it doesn't seem to look at it from, it doesn't seem to want to have that fintech affiliation yet. And it doesn't look so leveraged. But if you look at his trading desk, I think that's where his magic, because investment security trading brought in 25 billion. That was even twice more than what Wema brought in last year. You look at fees and commission, brought in massively 78.3 billion. So pretty much UBA sounds like an investment bank. It sounds like the Goldman Sachs of Nigeria based on this result. And interestingly again, their cash equivalent grew to about 1 trillion naira. So, given the big boys, Zenith Bank over the past 2-3 years have been the most profitable bank. That was so easy for them to push. And the fact that they also maintained an interim dividend of 50 kobo, the same with GT, and it makes the stock. So unsurprisingly, UBA is the best performing stock this year among top tier 1 banks. If you look at First Bank, you look at GT can't move up to a 60% year-to-date return. First Bank is just begging to do less than 70% year-to-date return. But UBA is bringing over 100%. So I think Emefiele has a lot to be happy about. My concern is this. The CBN said that they can't use their excesses to really prop up their dividend. So that's why we saw then the FTS, the UK research firm downgrade, also put a dark cloud on Nigerian banks somehow. But interestingly, it looks like Emefiele meant business and he got a better deal in the result.
Yeah, I mean, just the key numbers on UBA. And again, we're focusing on UBA because I'm not to explain the result that they had. It's a very good result. Very good result. Interest income, 66% jump. This is 2022. Interest income, i.e. what the bank's doing is business, 66% jump. Net interest income, 56% jump. Income on fees, 30%. Only their return on average equity is 57%. Their dividend increase is 150% increase. Earnings per share, 10 naira, 25 kobo. So even if they don't share the dividends out, what you're seeing is a bank. You call them the Goldman Sachs, the trading bank. They've shown that they can make a profit. And I don't want to lose. I don't know if I can mention the bank. You just tweeted about them a little bit. You give a tweet about that bank. The bank lost money on FX. You just tweeted it. I don't want to mention the name, but a bank in Nigeria lost money on FX. The same bank in Nigeria, and this bank is making. I mean, the number is crazy, Olumide. The number that UBA made on trading is crazy.
I think you can mention the bank. I think Unity Bank was the bank that made. But you see, the interesting thing is that I think those banks, because what the odds were against Nigerian banks, that's what a lot of people need to understand. They lost over 200 billion the top tier one banks to refinance debt. In fact, we were even contemplating that this is a bad time to buy Nigerian banking stocks because of those losses that was going to be on their bottom line. But they were consistent. They still gave dividend, normal dividend that they usually, and they were even having, they even looked like they were streamlining their operations. So if you look at CSR, for example, they reduced it among the top 13 banks, reduced it by 70%. So they were quite disciplined. They grew the cost they spend on employees also increased marginally, particularly Zenith UBA. So you could see that the corporate governance and discipline in the team really brought in. So let's ignore the FX valuation. If you also look at it deeper, you see that these banks also had a lot of homework they did. If you look at Unity Bank, for example, Unity Bank made losses because they had exposure to the loan they got from African Export-Import Bank. That loan now conversion was about 8.9 billion. So if you look at their FX valuation, they had a booking loss of over 35 billion. So pretty much a lot of Nigerians think that the banks made money just because. I think it shows that the financial professionals in our industry really know the job, and the corporate governance really helps these banks to be quite disciplined. But it doesn't also show some positivity in the side that most of these banks are not making money from the real sector. We didn't talk about loans. We didn't talk about, and we saw the fact that the exposure to the private sector hasn't really improved, despite the fact that the CBN reduced that the amount spent on credit in the first half of the year. We've not seen it in the bank's results. So that's my concern. But it's a very important result for UBA.
UBA's interest income, just pure interest income, i.e. difference between what they pay and what they get. Last year, 2022, last year, 257 billion. This year, 428 billion. What they're lending to corporates. So, I mean, again, to emphasize the point you're making, this is the quality of the personnel in the bank showing. Last 2 weeks ago, last quarter when they were here, we talked about, was it Mansa that made a profit on their FX, their balance sheet, they made a profit. But across the board, Nestle, NBL, all these companies are making a loss on dollar exposure. So it's the hedging. Some guys in Treasury hedged, some guys in Treasury did not hedge. Even the stuff you're talking about, the other bank you just mentioned that had an exposure from the loan they took in dollars, they didn't hedge. UBA not only hedged, they traded on swaps. That's what they're making a profit from. So if you take away that trading that the Treasury boys in UBA killed, just on the bank side alone, interest income, it's more than 100%. Just on the income alone from just, we give you money from depositors and we make a spread. They killed it.
Yeah.
Look at their employees. Yeah. It's off.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to add their investment that if you also look at the Treasury Department of UBA, it's a tier 2 bank on its own. Wema Bank had a profit after tax of 12 billion. Sterling Bank had a profit after tax of 10 billion. FCMB had a profit after tax of 3.5 billion. That doesn't even hit 70% of what UBA made in its Treasury Department. So it tells you that, like you said, financial professionals, the quality of the financial really spelled out in the statement.
What's not that guy that introduced bond trading in Nigeria? Oh my God. He ran EA Capital. He did the Tinapa loan. He used to run. The guy that did the bond, his name just escapes. Oh my God. Someone can send me a DM. He brought former US investment banker. He came to Nigeria. So he has oh my God, I'm going to get his name. Yeah, he was in UBA Capital. He was the guys there. So, I mean, but the bigger question is, UBA has got a fantastic result. We put it down to the quality of staff. And I think they are also one of the banks that increased salaries. Am I correct? I know GT did. I believe UBA did. In the wake of all this paying their staff peanuts, I think someone said UBA increased salaries. I mean, I'm trying to tie this also back to, if you pay for quality, you get quality. I really would like the banks to also focus on the staff welfare. If people are happy to work in a bank, I think they deliver. And I think if your UBA staff on the space. Your bank did well. I hope they pay you guys well because you guys have done well for the shareholders. For the guys that are not being paid well, I think you should also demand it, and we're here to support you. But I just think that if you banking is an institution where you ask very, very young people to manage money that they cannot earn on their own, and they have to be motivated to make money for the bank. If you don't pay me well and you give me $1 billion and say, hey, invest money for this guy, if I'm not paid well, why would I? So kudos on this for UBA particularly. Let's talk about your best bank. I don't know if I can say that, but Fidelity going to buy Union Bank's business in UK. What's your take? You always talk about how NECA is trying to go take Fidelity from where they are to where they should be. What's your take? Good move? Right price?
Yeah, I think it's a very good move. I think strategic, the fact that they're looking at diversifying. Fidelity has an heavy exposure in our energy, particularly the electricity sector. And if you look at Ineka, when she came in on board, her ambition is that the bank will be among the top tier 1 bank. And pretty much the bank had built up to expectation. Yet to return is up to yet to date almost 100%. At some point, it was even the best performing stock before Sterling Bank overtook the bank. So I feel it's a smart move, and I feel that shareholders are already enjoying her strategic moves, because ever since she took M's of affair, it has been one profit to the other. But my concern is this: the fact that their exposure is not as much as the tier 1 banks. The tier 1 banks really have a big. If you look at UBAs cash and equivalent, has more than $1 trillion to spare. So I think at some point they raised funds, but will those funds be enough? That's another question I might not be able to answer. But I think with what she has done, I think it's one of the tier 2 banks investors are not ignoring at all, and that's why the stock has performed this way.
She's looking at. She wants to go into 5 countries. I know UK. She's done UK. I'm pretty sure she wants to do China. I'm pretty sure she wants to do somewhere in Asia. I'm sure. So you know where they're going to, right? They want to be that trade bank, that bank where you're going to do trading. You can basically go to them. So this is really what they're trying to do. They're trying to be should we say the big bank light. They're a smaller bank. They can maneuver, and those big banks are maybe getting a bit too fat. They can just sneak into those. If they have a branch in China, and they are also strong in the southeast and the south in terms of the trading bank, that's a big one-up for them. I see where she's going with this.
Yeah, but I think if you look at Ineka's strategy, he really works a lot with data. If you look at the UK, for example, that's where Nigerians the highest amount of diasporas are outside Africa. That's where you see them, the UK. And if you understand the fact that they have a very, very strong relationship with small businesses and exposure with fintech, although not as high as Web and GT, then one will say that was really a good bet, because the growing amount of Nigerians in the UK and the fact that you must also need to de-risk yourself, just getting exposed to Africa alone with these currencies risk, I think it's a good move.
Yeah, if you look at Canada, that's going to be, I was going to mention, if you get into Canada now as a Nigerian bank, that's going to be a big addition to your earnings and all that, because that's a new Nigeria now, Canada. So any bank that has UBAs in America, only Nigerian bank there. If Fidelity can get to Canada, that's going to be major for them. UBA's PE, have you seen this? UBA's PE is 1.2. 1.2 PE for UBA, which means if you invest today, you take a year your money back. 1.2, although it's been affected by the earnings, right? The earnings is pulling that PE down, but still is amazing at 1.2. It's crazy. Dividend
and also dividend yield,
8.5 for UBA. I'm getting about 8.5 dividend yield for them. So it's not beating inflation, but it's 8.5 on dividends alone. So you get that dividend plus the cap appreciation just buying this particular stock. When is the payout date? Ex-dip date is September 27th. So if you want to enjoy the dividend, you've got to buy before September 27th. But remember, guys, if you are buying for dividends, that's a bad investment because you're already buying the stock with the appreciation of the price already built in, which means you are buying it overpriced. You should have bought the stock a long time ago to enjoy this ride. So if you're buying now for the dividends, you are basically buying at an overpriced, right? Should you buy after dividends? Doesn't make any sense. Might as well enjoy the dividend. Just know that, keep that in mind. If you're buying for the dividend, you're a bit too late. But if it's a long term, maybe. But yeah, keep that in mind. What are you going to say?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. But I think we should also give credit to like banks like GT and Wema because particularly you understand that Nigeria happens to be Africa's biggest fintech space, and I've been following the fintech space a long while, and I noticed that Nigerian banks, one difference that they bring on the table is that corporate discipline, they don't make too much noise, and they try to do the work. So if you look at Abari Pay, for example, GT's fintech brand, they made 300 times profit after tax. In 2022, they had 322 million in profit after tax. Now they have 1.3 billion. And so it tells you that, well, FX evaluation made most of the gains. The bank wasn't so solid bottom line. We still saw the fact that non-interest income was a bit dragging. But if you look at the bigger picture, Nigerian banks seem to be hitting at the future. So we see the likes of GT and Wema taking fintech position. We see the likes of UBA and Zenith making that corporate still is the bottom line. So I think different strategy, different folks. Then First Bank investors will not really hate Emefiele for what he did against Obateku. We saw what he did in the bank, and ever since that time, the share of the bank from 3 naira to 1 point, it got to 20 naira. So just imagine you invested when Femi Otola came in on board. So you're talking about 4 to 5 times return. So the interesting times for Nigerian banks, but down risk still remains, uncertainty, political risk, the fact that the real estate sector is almost in shambles, consumption is weak, and we will not see this outright performance like we saw in half year replete. Is very unlikely, except you say the naira is going to get to another 1,600. So I think we need to also be moderate about our expectations despite their great performance.
Yeah, so and two things again, just to also go to someone's asking me on Twitter to highlight the other banks' PE. So UBA's bank PE is 1.2, GT is about 2, First Bank about 2.4, Fidelity about 3.4, Access about 8.6. So the PE basically means there's a price in relation to the earnings. So what it means, if you see a PE of say 2, is saying if you buy this stock today at this price and the earnings remain the same, you will take 2 years to get back your price that you paid. So it's a way to measure how expensive the stock is, right? So a stock that is sold for 10 naira with a PE of 1, right? Another stock is sold for 5 naira with a PE of 10. The stock for 10 naira with that PE of 1 is cheaper than a stock of 5 naira with a PE of 10, if you put it that way. So you don't look at the stock price by the naira, the dollar price. Look at the PE to tell you if it's cheap or expensive. Again, don't buy based on just the PE, but it gives you an insight if what you're paying for, how much are you paying for, and that's why I would use the PE. You want to look at it in terms of if I pay today, this is how much I'm buying future earnings. Just a guide for you. Let me give you 2 stories. I had 2 stories here. And the name I was looking for was Mr. Sonny Ayeye. I don't know if you know him, Mr. Sonny Ayeye. He's a guy, one of my heroes, right? He came in, this bond market we see, he was one of the pioneers way back then when we had Abacha that was selling this, creating a long-term bond market for Nigeria to General Abacha that eventually started to have Nigerian bonds, all that kind of stuff. So under the radar guy. I think he works in Don Lauren Merrifield. I think so enough. So Mr. Susaniere, shout out to you wherever you are. Look, just two stories for you, right? Someone asked me on Twitter, why are Nigerian banks alone making money and other sectors of the economy are not making money? My own personal take is this. Nigerian banks are one of the few organizations in Nigeria that pay, quote unquote, a living wage. I'm not talking about the contract staff, but if you work in a bank in Nigeria, at least they give you a good wage. And I think because of this, they attract very, very, very the best of the employable class in Nigeria. I think it was a time the largest collection of ICANN holders were working in a particular bank in Nigeria. So you get just the average worker in a bank in Nigeria is educated, knows about what's going on outside the country, understands debits and credit, things like that. So when you get that quality, it sort of rubs off on how you do your operations. It's easier to train, easier to implement what you're supposed to train. This is just my own personal view. The same way you go to certain oil companies, it's not that they are paying so much, but the quality of staff in those companies makes them do things better. So in terms of if you want to make money for your company as well, that's what I'm going to. You want to raise your employees up. You can't demand a monkey plays chess. Let me put it that way. So this thing to me matter. If you want really to make money, then of course you want to help people understand what a swap is. I teach treasury to banks, and sometimes I ask the question, let's do this swap. Like I said, what are you talking about? And you work in a bank, you don't know what a swap is, But some banks you are talking, they're just following you because they get what you're saying. So that's just one take. Second story, I was talking to an American, and the American asked me a question. He said, is there a lot of fraud in Nigeria the way we have fraud from Nigerians in the US? I said, in the US, they get a lot of those letters. I did not come to you by chance, or I want you to invest in this. He said, do Nigerians get those letters? He was asking me. And I said, we get them, but we know it's fraud, number one. Number two, the IT infrastructure in Nigeria is superior to the IT infrastructure in American banks. People think I was on my phone. I showed her that on my phone, I could transfer money from my phone to my mom. And I showed her how I logged into the bank. I did a transfer. The bank asked me for a token. I used my biometrics, verified myself on my token. The bank gave me the token. I transferred money from my account to my mom's account. The US just started doing Zelle, which is their own transfer that you can move money from one bank to another bank. They just started maybe 1 or 2 years ago. For years, Nigerians can wake up on your phone, I send money to Lumide, I know they send money back. Americans don't do that. You still have paycheck, you take your check, So just two stories about the quality of Nigerian banking with the fintech you're mentioning and all that. We shouldn't really. It adds to the brand equity and why the banks are making money. The banks have invested in IT, and I think it's showing up in terms of returns. Look, go ahead. After you speak, there's some guys want to do a word.
Okay, just like, a lot of people will be surprised when you mention the fact that Nigeria's bank IT is much more robust than US banks. Well, that's an open secret. That was why the US Fed created what we call the Fed now, where you could do transactions almost immediately. Many American banks then, it takes a couple of hours to days for a transaction. So, yes, you are spot on that. And I think Nigerian banks also, with this Japa syndrome, I think reports have shown that they really upgraded in terms of pay, and they looked at how to outsource talents. Because if you look at many of these banks, GT in Q2 upgraded this app, Zenith after a lot of downtime. So the banks also are on top of the game, trying to be relevant. And that's one of the things I wish the fintech place to take. It's not a place of PR, it's not a place of just showing numbers of transactions. I think the banks also understand that corporate discipline really plays at the end of the game. And that's why we're seeing these banks making profit. Although, the access to capital also favors the bank. Nigerian banks happen to have the easiest and cheapest way to get, the central bank, one of the banks who have that advantage. And just recently, Goldman Sachs was signed a deal with them. Goldman Sachs, about $400 million. It's very difficult for a company in Nigeria, even Dangote might not get that. So these are advantages some of these banks have, and they keep optimizing that, and they develop their time. So I think we need to give them that kudos.
Gotcha. And again, just remember, a few years ago in Nigerian banks, I remember going to line up in Ikeja to get token number so that my dad could come to the bank later. I remember on Allen Avenue, there was a bank there. Beside the bank was a place where you could play video games. People are going to laugh, but in those days, there was no Nintendo. You had to go to a building and play video game. So we would go to Allen Avenue, go to that place, line up in the bank, get a token. They give you a blue token. Then you wait. Then when my dad will come, we'll then give what number? Number 7. Then your dad now going to the bank. You'll be calling number 48. You now go and tell the teller what you want to do. Then the guy at the back will then bring the book. You sign the book, they'll sign withdrawal book. So not a long time ago, this was how Nigerian banks operated a while back. Before IBB did the big bang, and they sold the shares in First Bank, UBA, Afribank, and I think it was Savannah Bank to the private sector. That's when you then had people like GT Bank then came up with focus on service. You had a lot of revolution in banking where you had very young boys came into banking, created institutions, and then you had ones that failed. You had the ones that were just pure frauds. And after Soldo came and cleaned up the industry, now you have these Nigerian banks today. So it's a long process where you have to bring everybody in. People would fail. People would attract capital. The Nigerian banks have attracted a lot of quality graduates back to Nigeria, and they've set up. So it's a long process, and I think the faster you start in your sector, the better it is for you. You can't just build your own internal ecosystem, or we're going to do a Nigerian thing. It doesn't work. Got to open it up, open up the sector to get the players to come in, fall forward, and of course it's better for you. Let's get some guys to speak. I think RYO wants to speak, Aki wants to speak, Tuna wants to speak. RYO, your floor, go ahead, sir.
Thanks for having me, Khalid. It's a spectacular space. Wonderful to speak with Olunde as well. So informative and well researched on the balance sheets. I had a couple of questions, if I can hark back to some of the previous topics. One, I think you talked about attracting capital to Nigeria for investment compared to the U.S. offering a risk-free 5%. Obviously, you're speaking of the short-term rate, given Nigeria's longer-term rate and more comfort level with high cost of capital, and the banks showing as businesses that can handle the high cost of capital, to your points about the interest income. Is there something where longer duration can be attractive now that a free float or a semi-free float is there to bring in capital for investment? And then secondarily, do you think the banks are benefiting from the previous regime of the capital controls and split rate, where longer term bonds in Nigeria were not as highly overvalued by saturation of foreign capital, so the bank's balance sheets, when interest rates raise, that duration end of the curve, their balance sheet didn't take as much loss as U.S. banks, which we all know got bailed out by the Fed with that big interest, big loan facility that expires at the end of the year. I just feel like it's very rosy recently for Nigerian banks, but are they benefiting from a really sweet spot that may not continue? Thanks for the time, and thanks for taking my questions.
Interesting question. So you're correct. So in terms of 5%, that's usually short term. In US rates, US yield curve right now is negative. So i.e. the shorter term durations pay you higher than the longer term duration. So if you walk into a US bank, 7 months, 11 months, 15 months, you get about 5%. But if you then do 2 years, you get about 1-2%, right? So it's a sign that the US is maybe is flashing recession, but we don't know. So Nigerian bonds, 10-year Nigerian bonds, dollar is paying about 14.5. 10-year Nigerian bonds, dollar, which means, and they're at a discount today. So it means that if you were trying to invest in a bond to get dollar returns for the long term, then of course emerging markets like Nigeria is where you should come to if you can bear the risk. You saw what happened to Zambia. So if you buy a Nigerian bond for 30 years, Nigerian government is guaranteeing you give or take about 8.6% guaranteed based on Nigeria's balance sheet, right? So if you can stomach that yield, it might be a good bet for you. And again, you're buying at a discount now because the yields have dropped. Governor Lumide has said folks might look at the oil revenues as not being consistent and think there's a risk there that Nigeria may not be able to fund those bonds. Because essentially when you buy a Nigerian bond, it's a primer on crude oil. You're basically buying crude oil. That's essentially it. The Nigerian non-oil exports are not the ones paying you back those bonds. It's crude oil. So wait for it to play the crude oil markets to buy a Nigerian bond, because the oil prices go up and you buy this bonds, you're buying at a discount. That's essentially what it is. In terms of the Nigerian bank sweet spot, I think Nigerian banks issued money market instruments that invested in these same bonds I'm talking about. So if you come to Nigeria, we have retail products that the banks, first of all, issued to sweep and mop up cash from Nigerians in Nigeria to invest in the Nigerian government-issued Eurobonds. So banks were earning dollar returns by mopping up dollars from Nigerians in Nigeria. And many banks also issued their own paper abroad to foreign banks and then got dollar loans into Nigeria because they felt it was going to be a cheaper way to then fund imports without going through the CBN capital controls. The problem with Nigeria is that even when you do that, you are still under the capital control regime of the Central Bank of Nigeria. So you can't, for instance, bring in your own $1 billion and then lend out your own $1 billion. CBN will still want to have a say in that. So capital controls, even now that we have the liberalized market, we have a company that is under investigation by the secret police, Olam. They said they brought in dollars and then they gave those dollars out as they deemed fit. But they are saying that investigating them because they brought it in as official dollar import, i.e. they got a capital importation certificate. So that's where we are. Long and short, we have also a foreign market, i.e. a forward market for dollar, where if you are bringing in dollars in, you can go there and price your dollars going out. That's also a primer for you, Rio, to look at the expectation in Nigeria about where dollar will be right now. If you try to buy a 24-month forward in Nigeria for dollars, it's way in excess of 1,000 naira to $1. So when Olumide says 1,000 naira to $1, on the forward market, it's already more than 1,000 naira on the forward market already. So the markets are telling you that we believe the naira is going to depreciate in value. And you had Rio, go ahead.
Spectacular response. Thank you for the thoroughness. And just talking back to your previous comment about the fuel subsidy returning and obviously having an influence on FX, and to your point about the international market viewing Nigerian bonds and or sometimes the Nigerian economy as a whole to a fault, and in my view, as a bet on crude, it's more dynamic than that, but your perception being there. Do you feel that the fuel subsidy is anti-bunkering because it makes the bunkering less lucrative, and if you don't put enough fuel subsidy, you make the bunkering so lucrative that you actually damage yourself? There's a necessary amount of subsidy to make bunkering not too profitable. Now that we've seen the removal, and we saw bunkering spike in response because now I don't need to just take it across the border to get a good price anymore and smuggle it. I can just sell it domestically. Is that real? Is that overblown? How big is that?
It's two topics. You're seeing two topics, right? So the bunker is the stealing of the actual raw crude, and then you sell it to, they have ships just off the shoreline in Nigeria. So you just take the crude oil out and you sell without paying taxes. So it's just theft. There's no correlation with that bunker, which is just theft, and the subsidy. So what happens in Nigeria with the subsidy is that when we subsidize, the petrol oil company of Nigeria pays the subsidy. Hence, there are no revenue flows in dollars to the central bank. Hence, they cannot defend their peg, or they cannot supply dollars to the market. So imports are expensive. The airlines leave Nigeria because there's no dollar inflow to defend the peg or to pay for imports. That's the subsidy problem. The bunkering is just theft. So when they removed the subsidy, it's on PMS, the refined crude oil. So what that meant was that now there's no need to smuggle, because there's no price differential between Nigeria and, say, Benin or Cameroon. you can't smuggle because you can't get any advantage in price if you smuggle to PMS. But the bunkering is still continuing because it will even get worse now because if crude oil is $93 a barrel, then the incentive to steal crude oil even goes higher. Because I take the crude oil out, I can sell it at $50 a barrel and still make a killing. The guys that are literally, if you go to a Nigerian shoreline, literally, you would see illegal oil tankers literally parked there. I'm telling you because I've seen it. Literally parked on the international waters. So you see a Nigerian Navy ship right there. The Nigerian Navy ship is separating the Nigerian waters from the international waters. And on the international waters, there are oil tankers empty, waiting. So once you run the gauntlet of Nigerian Navy ships, you go to those oil tankers, you offload your your stolen crude. They pay you dollars on the spot or guns on the spot. They give them. So that's what's happening. And I mean, if I was a president, Jesus Christ, I will mistakenly sink a few ships. Just sink a few those ships that are up the coast and apologize and pay the duties. And then everyone gets the message. You can't park an empty oil tanker off the coast of Iran. You cannot do it. It's not possible. Or the US or any exporting nation. So if we don't stop the demand, we're not going to stop bunkering.
So there's not artisan refinery. That's a fallacy that the artisan refinery is too small to be significant.
Insignificant. They're just refining diesel. They just burn it. They're just environmentally destroying the environment. But that's not the bunkering. The bunkering is the taking of the raw crude across the waters and send to the ships to then export without paying duty. The ones that just burn all that stuff, they should give them modular refineries and incorporate them into the actual formal process to reduce the environmental degradation. Where are you going to store? We are losing all in 700,000 barrels, either shut-ins or theft. Where do you store that amount of crude if they were stealing it? Where are they keeping it? What tanks are they keeping it in? So the crude is being shipped and sold abroad. You hear the Navy saying, we chased an oil tanker. Just listen to this. The Nigerian Navy will tell you they chased an oil tanker from Nigeria to the Equatorial Guinea. Chased. Like it's a car chase. Or you will hear Nigerian Navy arrested a ship filled with oil. Then the next day, the ship disappeared. This is not, it wasn't parked in, it was parked in the harbor. The Nigerian Navy was guarding it, then the entire ship disappeared. Then the entire ship is then found in the same delta, different name, different crew, different insurance company, the exact same ship. So it's a whole, we're wasting time in the country. If I was the president, hire a small, very tight team of mercenaries, give them drones and give them the right to blow up any illegal oil ship you see. Just blow it up. Give a specific time ships must come to Nigeria and pick up oil. Any ship you see outside there, blow it up. Yes, I agree. It will damage the environment, but the environment's already damaged today. It's already damaged today because these guys that are blowing up stuff, they blow up the pipes to get legal oil. So you have to be radical with these guys. You can't be like blood diamonds. How do you know blood diamonds? If you take crude oil, you can put chemical additives into the crude, and you can know that this crude is from Nigeria. So Nigeria can say every crude that is exported, we're going to put an additive in that crude. So if it's refined across the world, we know it came from Nigeria. How many refineries do you have in the whole world? Just put investigators in all the refineries you have on earth. And any ship that brings raw crude oil, test it. If it's from Nigeria, where's your export certificate? You can do things like that, but we don't do them because the Nigerians are complicit in the corruption happening in the oil in Nigeria. They're complicit. And if you don't fix it, how do you then fix your deficits? Luke, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add a little tips on my spots on oil theft and subsidy. I think first of all, we need to understand that oil theft is institutionalized, and it's going to take from the highest level for us to treat this menace. And the problem of the naira started from oil theft. If you look at yes, you could say petrol subsidy at some point, but oil theft really made the Nigerian economy anemic, and that's pretty much why the naira is still at where it is right now. just imagine we're producing 2.5 million barrels or 2.3 million barrels a day. Just imagine with prevailing price. And that was significantly why I mentioned that a country that was generating $80 billion in revenue, we are now generating 25 billion. The fact that the Naira is even trading less than 1,000, I think we need to give Naira props. And, my fear is that we make a joke out of it because it even affects the integrity of the country. If the Navy can't handle oil theft, then what happens when we have security issues on our territorial waters? Also, we also need to look at the fact that the Saudis spent $253 billion on fuel subsidy. China spent 2.2 trillion on fuel subsidy. The EU spent 460 billion on fuel subsidy. America spent hundreds of billions on fuel subsidy. So what am I saying? This country spends hundreds of billions, but they're not dying. Nigeria spent 10 billion, and the whole world wants to. So why are we at that situation? We are at that situation because we don't understand that we don't have an economy that's generating enough funds to support core issues, and so subsidy is not on the table. Secondly, refinery does not bring the price down. I mentioned it over and over. Saudi Arabia, Russia, they have refineries, but they still subsidize. And their refineries, and what refinery does is that it really puts the energy security of the country on its feet. Just imagine if the country, rather than giving palliatives, subsidize the public transportation. And that's what's happening in Europe. I almost can travel almost anywhere with almost 5 to 10 euros. And, if you look at that, compared to someone taking Uber from Lekki to Ikeja, spend 6,000 to 8,000 naira, I'm much more in a better shape than the other person. You face traffic, you face CO, the contaminated, I'm going to go through. So these are things Nigerian government need to focus on. And my fear is that, you see, the NNPC listing that just came out, the appointment that just came out, a lot of people are already seeing it as tribal. So the president really needs to come up and really treat this. And I'm not happy the fact that he's following President Buhari's step. Minister for Petroleum Affairs, one of the core issues, you have a lot of things you're having 48 ministers, and now you are putting the Minister of Petroleum directly under your presidency. How effective will that work? These are questions a lot of people need to ask. And they've not also spoken about the fact that, you said you're going to make NNPC public. Remember the regulation. A lot of time, the timeline has not come out. The Wando Ajib's deal was not so transparent. We don't know how, there was back and forth until we heard that it really went through. So these are questions that is really wondering. And that is why I said until the oil sector, until we see 1.8 to 2 million barrels, the Naira will just be dancing like catfish.
So if we know that the issue is output of crude oil, why have we not addressed that like a laser? The issue is not a subsidy, like you said. There's nothing wrong with subsidizing. The problem is how we're doing it and that we can't afford the subsidy. The reason why we feel the subsidy today is that in the 70s, Nigeria could afford a subsidy. Today we cannot. Why haven't we addressed the stealing at the Nigerian oil port? Why? Everyone has screamed. Elumelu, we've talked about today with his bank, UBA. He bought an oil company. He got 5% of the output. So he pumps 100% here. At the receiving end, he gets only 5%. Documented. Seplat bought an oil. Same thing. The oil is stolen. Many pipes are shut in because the oil is stolen. And we say that Nigeria, the largest economy in Africa, cannot guarantee crude oil flowing in Nigeria. This is not flowing in the high seas, in Nigeria. Channels TV has done an expose. They found a pipe that's been there, is it for 4 or 7 years? This is live, right there. If we cannot stop oil theft, that means that it is institutional, because you can't tell me it's hidden. Like I told you, I have gone on a ship, Nigerian Navy ship, right to the coast. You see these guys right there. It's not hidden. They are literally there. Once you can take a ship and cross that Navy gauntlet, you can sell your crude oil and get hardcore dollars. Everyone knows this, but nothing has been done. And I went on this ship when I was in secondary or university. It's still happening. So till we get serious about it, if the president is listening, the way you fix your inflation, the way you fix your budget deficit, is to raise your crude oil output. How can you be doing 1.18 million barrels a day? We were doing 2 million barrels without blinking 10 years ago. Now we're doing 1.18. We are one militant away from going bankrupt. If one militant wakes up and blows up, the whole economy goes bankrupt. The whole economy, the largest economy in Africa, is waiting for one militant to blow up a pipe and then we're done. How is that? How is that a country? All right, Rio, thanks a lot for chopping in there, right?
That's amazing. I'll step down and give the space to others. Thank you so much.
No worries. Yeah, Tunde, you got the floor, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Carlo. Thanks, Mubulumi, for your insight. And honestly, it's been wonderful listening to you guys. And I think the challenge, let me start from that last I really want to talk about the central bank. Is now, we know the problem, but in Nigeria, we're not talking about problem. And in Nigeria, we always enjoy talking about the problem. That's why there's no solution. When you talk so much about a problem, it's because we don't want a solution. It doesn't take a lot to solve this challenge, but as I already said, it's institutionalized at the highest level. This is my town today, tomorrow, someone else is town, and it's just a musical circle. So, tell them Nigeria for that one. I want to talk mainly on this central bank. And I pity this government a lot. I know the political state and I really talk politics personally. But the challenge I have is what is being brought out today, what's being done today is setting a bad precedent. You are saying some people have resigned, and how can they resign after you've appointed some people? So it's only after you have appointed can I tell them that they have resigned. No official statement. I don't know when they want to say sit down with that. Why are foreign investors not coming? I said, if I'm a foreign investor, I've told all my people outside the country, don't bring dollars into the country. And that's my personal, I'm in Nigeria. That's my personal advice because I know this government is clever by half. You told us, we said they want to raise domiciliary accounts. That's what they want to do. Use domiciliary accounts that are idle and try and give them. They have not yet succeeded in doing that. How can you try and say you want to get 10 billion within 2 weeks? Mission impossible. NNPC could never get the 3 billion from Avnexi Bank. And you see, one thing I realized this government is doing is propaganda. And government by propaganda ultimately fails. It ultimately, that's what the past administration started with, the body language. And we are telling them, what body language? Body language is just film trick. In the end, people will see that there is nothing. It's a masquerade shouting. We will know who the masquerade is. And they ended up being one of the most inept and most corrupt administration. Now, you see, in Nigeria, what is the president trying to part of the economy and believing without being a product of doom to spending for this nation? People like Tinubu in Lagos can also and people don't know. And people don't see the figure, the lining on the face. That we know that we are in Lagos. We know how they cornered Lagos. And when Tinubu now want money from Central Bank, and the Central Bank don't say no. Remember they've increased the from 5% to 15%. How we are aware of that? From 5 to 15%. Now, can we enter? We spoke about the excess 1.7 trillion. How you knew that they did not share all that money? They did not share all that money. They only shared half of the money. They took another half to what the government called infrastructural development fund.
Yeah.
That's what they've been doing. They took it to infrastructural development fund. Again, they are creating extra budgetary funds which they will be spending to no account. Lagos, Lagos, which they are using as the example, that they are using as the example. Also want to ask everyone in Lagos, State of Information Act, on any budget or any contract in Lagos, the government will deny it. I just hope we are not involved in this country again. a good structure. When the NSA of the past administration was questioned one time, he said the structure, when the security was there, is still there. Structures, they don't do accountability, there's no transparency, there's no integrity. Those are the three hallmarks of a development of a country that means seriousness. Accountability, transparency, integrity. You took a central bank governor, he said he had arms, now you're giving just arms. We all know this one is bullshit. We know 2 weeks ago that they want the man to be back. So,
make good points, yeah.
Yeah, so I think, so now I said that I wanted, okay, sir, yeah.
I hear you. Let me just check the room. So, Olumide, I mean, Tunde makes a good point. I want to talk about this. Tunde makes a good point about that they created this new illegal fund. We already have an excess crude account. When we got the excess from the removal of subsidy, we created this new infrastructure fund. And that's illegal because the constitution does not allow us to create funds separate from the consolidated revenue fund. So even the excess crude, even the savings we have in Nigerian infrastructure savings, sovereign fund, they are all unconstitutional. They could be legal, but not unconstitutional. Now, Tunde has brought this point. It reminded me about this new fund we've created, right? That is just going to be there. It's going to be a fund that they can use without going through National Assembly approval. The exact same thing that Buhari did when he created the presidential whatever fund that he used to bypass Congress, which was essentially the Nigerian Natural Gas dividend. So he will get dividends, and instead of paying dividends into the Nigerian treasury, he took it and he spent as he saw fit. So this is the macro risks that we're creating. Money is not being fully captured and coming into one central purse that could be appropriated out and spent. This is one of the issues to do with the anyhowness Nigerians would say that is affecting the economic intercourse. Now, we don't know whether money is going to be spent on. We don't know.
Yeah, that's why I highlighted the fact that the major problem is not what they do is a brilliant man. With respect to him, the same with if you look at their CV individually, these are capable people. But you see, the issue right now is that it's not that we don't just need capable people. We need people that can really strengthen this institution, and it can only work when you have an independent kind of structure from the fiscal side. You see, the rule of law is one of the problems I have with this, in this administration, because you see many times, look at Emefiele, first of all, the court said, he was granted bail, the DSS, we saw this thing the day MPC was making decision. Now, the question is that a lot of people forget that investors are not concerned about how beautiful your country is. They just want to make money. They're after the alpha. They're after the yield. And when you see the fact that your funds are not in a place where your courts are not strong, then it becomes an issue. And that's why I said one of the reasons why America, a lot of people are still putting their funds in America rather than China is because America's rule of law is strong. We know there's a fair, at least there's a decent way things are applied. I could recall some times ago, I had some friends that made some illegal trades right from Europe, and they got banned. They got banned from their markets. That just tells you the credibility the United States puts on their financial market. We don't really see these things here. First of all, our excess crude oil account cannot even buy a Bugatti. It's about 400,000 last time I checked. And you also look at the fact that our fiscal discipline is something else again. You promise to cut costs. How would you cut costs with this kind of government? And also, we can also shift blame to the states. The states are, to me, the major problem. There's one popular.
Why are most of them mentioning that money is their money? Why are they not talking?
Yeah, but most of them are not even doing things better with what they get. Look at FDI, for example. 2/3 of Nigerian states cannot begin FDI. A state like Ekiti, for example, imagine an average restaurant in Texas bringing more revenue for a state that has 4 million people. And we are complaining that we're saying that there's no money. There's no.
Did you hear about the spend between 2 billion and 5 billion to
Yeah, I think Cross River. Yeah, I think I heard about this.
I thought it was fake. When I then saw that it was not fake, I saw the actual quote. Cross River State. The governor wants to spend between 2 billion and 5 billion to renovate his office and state liaison offices. 2 to 5 billion. This is a state that do they have education in that state? 2 to 5 billion. Nigeria's problem is the spending. That's it, the spending. This $93 a barrel. If we had removed subsidies today, what would they have done with it? They would buy Rolls Royce. It's a state. What it was not Sokoto. No, is it Sokoto or Kebbi? Who bought Toyota Camry as taxi? Which state? The latest Toyota Camry. Sokoto or Zamfara? One of them bought this. Yeah, it's Sokoto. It's not Sokoto. I think it's Zamfara.
Sokoto has 90.5. NPS data will tell you that 90.5% of Sokoto residents are poor.
I think it's Zamfara. The guy that's the same thing that they bought American Cadillac SUVs for the emirs. It's the same thing that they just right now bought hundreds of Toyota Corollas as taxi. Toyota Corolla, not Camry, not Corolla, Camry, the latest one, imported with Naira to use as taxi in the state that everyone uses motorcycles. Is that what the state needs? This reminds me of how the one governor went and did his state. He gave the state internet access. His state did not have borehole water. He gave the state internet access. Then he moved. He was governing his state from the Netherlands. He lived in Netherlands. Then he will come to Nigeria, collect FARC revenues, go back to Netherlands. So he put internet in his state. This happened 60 years ago. So this country's problem is spending. It's not the revenue, it's spending. We just get money, and like I'm quoting the former president, our problem is how to spend it. So just spend it on nonsense. You take a palliative, and your best bet for a palliative is to go and buy local rice. That's your best bet on how to spend 5 billion pesos to go and buy local rice. No,
I think, to be honest with you, I think it's not just spending alone. I think you look at the degradation of education in Nigeria. You know, there was this thing that was trending. I don't know if you are aware. There was this reality show where a lawyer was even saying that laws are made in the judiciary. Somebody that is close to his 40s, he doesn't know the product between 7 and 11. And these are graduates. Now, the question right now is, you ask the question, how do you grow an economy when the skills, because you see, we've gone from the point of certificate of titles, the world rewards skills. Those that are working abroad will tell you that, see, if you have skills, you make the difference. So, you see, the problem right now is not just from the fact that we don't even have an economy that supports people that really have the skills, really chase after optics. We see things so there are a lot of discrepancy from the music industry to it's just the banks. And the banks also is already having the effect. The only industry that is really thriving right now is the political industry, because I call them the industry because that's where the money is made. The oil sector is not also doing so well. Look at the investment in the last 6-7 years. It has plummeted by close to half. So the question right now is, how do we grow our economy? How do we grow our economy from accountability, and we show real political will on spending? You know, the president really has to start automating. You know, he complained the fact that the payroll, it doesn't look like as if the number of workers. So you can imagine ghost understatement, performance fraud, different things around. So these are questions we need to really ask.
The rocket science. I mean, on my phone, I want to open up an app. I do my biometrics, and they give me an application. It's very simple. Have an app. Give it to all the banks, post office, whatever, and just simply pass a law. If you want to receive your salary, go to that app, scan your retina or your whatever, and get recertified that you exist. You'll be shocked what you find out with ghost workers. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala fought ghost workers when she was the first time she came. That's when they did IPPIS. Till today, they're still fighting IPPIS. This is the same IPPIS that the ASU folks didn't want to do. Because what does it? It tracks you and it locks you into an organization. Because in the past, one person would get a job in 10 federal ministries. So you see the fraud there. He's getting paid, but he works in 10 separate federal ministries. So IBPIS killed that. So now it's back. Lots of issues are going on now. But technology exists. What is the point of having fintech if you can't use the fintech for your governance? I saw Kenya present in Google. He's in Microsoft right now. Nigeria here, we can create local solutions that can verify every employee and pay your income directly from the bank to your bank account, verifiable with biometrics. You don't have to import it. We have the fintech right here. The CBN ran to Barbados and did e-Naira. When we have people here that could have done that e-Naira, and you would have exported that e-Naira as a product. Burna Boy will say, if you want to buy my song on Spotify, use e-Naira. Why can't he say that? You have to have I keep on going back to this Burna Boy thing. You have to have a partnership with these guys. These guys are your number one earner of foreign currency. Burna, Whiskey, Thames, Rema. These boys are your product. Have we gone Afrobeat? We asked on Twitter, have we sort of trademarked that name? Of course we can't trademark it, but have we even made noise about it? We're fighting jollof rice with Ghana. We think it's a joke. Try to go online or try to make wine, call it champagne, and see if the French people will sue you. So we have all these attributes, we ignore them, but we're chasing agriculture. I did a series of tweets. Agriculture, we're still using rain to farm. How do you feed yourself if you're using rain to farm? No fertilizer. Who knows, Miss? Don't Google. Give me the name of Minister of Agriculture today. Give me his name. Don't Google. If anyone can, $100, don't Google. We don't know the guy. When Additional was here, he turned agriculture. You could see where he was going to. Was going to be a job creator, a forex creator for Nigeria, and it was no longer a development department. It was a business. Young people were going into the business of agriculture. Now agriculture is now to share fertilizer. Ministry of Agriculture's job is to share fertilizer. So we're going to get our act together. We are moving too slow, too predictable. The market is getting ahead of Nigeria. So we have to have new ways. You see this MTN thing that came? Obasanjo brought it. He created a brand new sector in Nigeria, brand new employment, got many people out of unemployment, gave them job, gave them a career. We need like 2 more like that. Sectors that will just open up the economy, soak up that unproductivity, get the youth employed and active, creating millions of jobs. I can give you 2. Build 1 million homes in Nigeria. Just say you want to build 1 million homes in Nigeria. Not the government, the private sector. The government will basically go and build access roads, do sites and services. Then give everyone, okay, if you want to get a house, the state government give us land. Do you know what you're creating? Nails, aluminium roof, cement, iron rod, banking, insurance. You are getting lots of jobs just around this idea of creating 1 million homes in Nigeria a year. You will not get 10% of that done, but you are on the process of creating demand, creating jobs, attracting capital into that sector. We can't every year we're just go and farm. We're too, I don't know, Nigeria is like Chelsea. We're playing too slow, too predictable. We're not scoring goals. We have highly paid strikers, but there's just something missing. We need to be faster. We don't have time to waste. The guy president came was very, very fast in the first 2 weeks. Now he's gone back to slumber. Nothing is happening. They announced one minister today, they remove him tomorrow. They announced Minister of Youth. Minister of Youth! What do we need a Minister of Youth for? Minister of Women? For what? Okay, jeez. Akin, sorry for me. Akin, please go ahead. You got the floor.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So I first of all want to deal with the topic of banking before talking about other things.
Just go ahead.
I think it's a good thing and it's a bad thing that the banks are sort of decoupled from the real economy, because so the good part is that it means that they know how to survive. They know how to survive in the otherwise poor Nigerian economy. But the bad thing is that the very job of especially commercial banks, they're not doing it in the sense that they're not pushing credit into the economy, credit to productive uses in the economy. And if you look at the contribution of investment in Nigeria's GDP, it's not what it should be for a country that's looking to develop. So it's around about 20% or so. Now, you may say that is quite high, but if you are going to move your economy from a lower middle income country to a higher middle income country or even a developed country, we have templates that are bound. So Korea at one point was investing close to 40% of its GDP. Investment accounted for about 40% of its GDP. China is about 40% of its GDP. Japan was at similar levels to in the 1950s and 60s and also 70s. So it means that they are not funding productive investment in the real economy, and that consequently means that manufacturing companies in the country are probably not getting enough credits to expand, and that will of course affect productivity, because one of the fastest ways to improve productivity in an economy is through manufacturing. And there are already some reports that some of them are closing down. There is a big manufacturing recession in the country. In fact, the first subsidy removal, I would hazard a guess and I would say that it's a fast track way of deindustrializing an already comatose industry. So it's not really a good thing that credit is not being pushed into the real economy in serious ways. Who or which legal business venture would someone borrow money at rates of almost 30% and have an investment hurdle rate that is greater than 30%? There are very few ventures like that in the Nigerian economy. Very few of them. So that's already a problem. And that, of course, fuels inflation, because if things are not being produced, it means that there is a scarcity of goods, and with increasing demand, that will put upward pressure on prices. So when I see some people say, oh, we should just increase interest rate, I'm like, okay, you're increasing interest rates. Is that going to produce the next plantain, the next banana, the next big beans that people are going to consume? It doesn't do that. So you can say what you want. Like, I know there's some people on this space that still believe that it's just about increasing interest rate. The transmission mechanism, that's the link between the central bank increasing interest rate to its effect in the real economy, in the Nigerian economy, is really poor. It's not as strong as, say, in Europe or the US, where you have more of a credit-based system and where the actions of the central bank feeds through different markets in the economy, from the mortgages market to the bond market to the investment market to production and what have you, and also consumption. So that's one part of the conversation I feel that we really need to talk about. Kudos to the banks, for especially UBA, for trying as much as possible to make do with the poor economy that they found themselves in, and also Fidelity and the likes for charting new paths with respect to improving their earnings and shareholder value. On the point about fiscal policy and public finances, I think this is first of all, I don't just think it's as easy as maybe some people try to make it out to be, that, oh, just fire these people, implement this policy and all of that. The thing is that it is well ingrained in the thinking and the fiber of the way the government works. I will say this, and I know people will probably disagree with me. I don't see any incentive. There's no incentive for the incumbents to try to make the petroleum industry to be as transparent as possible. It is not. It doesn't favor the governing party. It doesn't favor the incumbent president to do all of that. There are very strong political reasons why that doesn't make any sense. First of all, you're thinking of how do you do some sort of financial engineering for political purposes or even for economic purposes if you have a transparent system. So if it doesn't, if it doesn't give strong incentives to the executive or to the incumbent president, and then you have a civil service that cannot necessarily carry out even the most basic forms of governance or of governance of a modern state, you can see already a problem. So for instance, I always tell people, or I always use this analogy that in the 1990s, despite how despotic Abacha was, Abacha could not control what exactly was going on at the borders. So you can say what you want in Abuja, say do all the press statement and all. What is being carried out on the ground will very much likely be different. Nigeria has that problem recurring. It's not something that happened during the military, because I know some people here will say it's the military that's fault it. It's not really a military problem. It has always been happening. It started since the country has actually had a civil service. Read articles and books about what was happening in the 1930s, 1940s, 1950s, under colonial rule, corruption and everything that's going on. So I feel that act of cleaning up the petroleum sector and ensuring that public finances is much more transparent is not going to happen. I think anybody that's thinking that there's a new change in the way government is going to run is basically wishing that pigs could fly, and that is not going to suffice, unfortunately. And that definitely means that development going forward is going to be effectively impossible. I know there are some people that want to believe that we should create a new narrative. See, if narratives could develop a country, there's so many countries in the world that will be developed today. It's not just about narratives. Read the narratives.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, I'm not. I hear you. I'm just trying to. So I mean, on the bank credit, I just shared on the Twitter space now bank allocation, just to give big pictures to your words. So there's a lot of credit in Nigeria. The problem is how to rephrase that sentence. What is happening is that the banks really don't have a lot of good, open places to put their money in to invest. The bulk of bank lending should normally go to, say, consumer and corporate, right? So your corporates are simple companies, but with the consumer side, when we want to buy a television or a car, it's non-existent. Because many Nigerians cannot afford those things. Only a few Nigerians can afford to buy a new car or even television or refrigerator. So consumer credit is very, very concentrated to the Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt landscape. But when you go to corporate, oil and gas, this figures are 2021, before COVID or after COVID. Oil and gas is there, finance is there, people doing margin trading, ICT, telecom people, of course, are there. But if you look at it, all these things are represented. But it's just, what's the volume? What is the debt? 5%, the total number of Nigerians that have ever accessed credit in their lives from a Nigerian bank is less than 5%. Let me say it again. The total number of Nigerians, the adult Nigerians that have a bank account that have ever accessed credit from a Nigerian bank is less than 5% of the active banking population. So that's your answer right there. Well, it's the same people borrowing. So Dangote is borrowing 2 trillion, but the small mom and pop shop aren't borrowing through. And if you don't get credit in the economy, no economy grows without credit. So to your point, yeah, we've got to it's not the increase in credit in the sector, but to increase the base of who is getting credit. When a student can get lapped.
So the thing is, for instance, if you look at, I think the last numbers I've seen is the amount of credit being pumped into the amount of credit into the economy. I think is less than, I believe it's less than 30% of the economy or something like that. Now, as you said, it's only to a specific segment of the economy. The SMEs, especially the medium-sized companies, they need that credit to buy new computers, to train workers, to improve productivity. Those people aren't getting all these things.
Okay.
And the for people that aren't economists who don't understand, the hurdle rate is basically the rate of return that you expect from an investment. The hurdle rate has to be higher than the 30% for an investment to be worthwhile if you take credit out from banks. Now, when you're having interest rates of 20-something percent, 30-something percent, I'm not saying that they should necessarily drop interest rate, but there's a lot of problem in the monetary policy linkage, so that's the transmission mechanism in the Nigerian economy. And I have to say that if you look at, so there's this current trend and zeitgeist.
I can rotate the room, so I hear you, but I cannot rotate the room, yeah?
Sorry, I
I couldn't hear you.
I just want to quickly rotate. So you hear a lot of people talk about how there's a lot of debt in some of these emerging market economies. Now the question is, what is that debt being used for? It's generally for investment. In Nigeria, we don't even have a lot of credit, and even people that are using the credit too, it's a very tiny percentage of the country. So I feel we need to deal with that, and of course mop up the public finances system in the country, which I'm not so optimistic about because of political machinations and all. Thank you.
Yeah, super. I mean, Linda wants to get in here, but again, credit, you made two good points. Credit is not available. I say credits are available to the same people. It's not getting to the real bottom of the ladder. So the mama puts lady that is selling rice and all that doesn't have credit. She gets what they call local credit. She buys rice and she has to pay back that rice, that money at the end of the trading day. If you take pure water, you sell pure water, you sell back pure water that same day. You give that to the guy that gave you that same day. So it's sort of like asset financing. But SMEs cannot grow unless SMEs get credit, long-term credit that is cheap. They can't grow anywhere. And that credit, I think, is absent. That's just one point again you mentioned. And also, again, just to emphasize your point, Aki, the linkage with this NPR thing, increasing interest rates and hoping it's going to achieve anything doesn't work in Nigeria because the black economy, the cash outside the economy is really a lot. We saw what we tried to do with cashless banking, right? I mean, with the Naira distribution policy, when we tried to bring in funds into the banking sector, it sort of didn't work because we didn't do it properly. But still, if you increase interest rates, it's not going to affect inflation in Nigeria because inflation in Nigeria is really supply driven. We have low supply, hence the few goods in the market cost a lot more. If rice floods the market, the price of rice will fall, irrespective of NPR. Irrespective, if we double our output of rice, the price of rice will fall. Inflation rate or no inflation rate, it's just demand and supply. Look, do you want to say something real quick on this one?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we have to also take a look at why the banks are a bit stiff on giving out credit, consumer credit. If you look at when AMCON was created, the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, they had a debt portfolio of about 4.6 trillion and they've only been able to recover 1.6 trillion out of it. So they have an outstanding of about 3.9 trillion from 315 debtors. Now, the problem is that Nigerian banks understood the nemesis of their past competitors or their peers. So they rather pay a CBN fine. And even CBN itself, look at the Anchor program with farmers, look at the rate of default. So we have a lot of problems. So please, we have to understand that banks are also answerable to shareholders and investors. So and corporate governance is a very regulated industry. So we can always say that these guys are not okay. The real sector is not attractive. Consumption in Nigeria is very weak. Residual income is almost floating in the air. So when it's incentive, that's why I'm asking that. And microfinance banks that were created to own cooperative, if you look at the way they defaulted, and fintechs, if you look at the way they defaulted, the question now becomes, what do you do if you are a donor? So I think to the best of my knowledge, I think these banks are just playing safe, and we can't really blame them right now.
If you take ₦1 million in Nigeria today and you give it to the federal government of Nigeria, they're going to give you about 14% risk-free. So why should I invest my money in a small business and run any risk? Maybe Lasma will come or whoever will come when I can just get risk-free. That's the problem with this raising NPR. 14, 18%. That's what we're with raising interest rates. When you raise interest rates and make it too high, then you kill entrepreneurship. Why should I invest and take risk when I can simply buy a bond or give money to a bank and make more money? But if interest rates are low, then I have to go out and seek risk and invest to make a return. So this is a balance. I get it. If you don't raise rates up, you are not killing inflation. But Nigeria's problem is supply. There's very, very low supply of goods and food. That's why prices are high. It has nothing to do with interest rates. I argue with the exchange rate. The price of Gary in my village does not respond to dollar price in Lagos. It responds to the supply and demand of cassava. It's the same across Nigeria. All this dollar has gone up, food will go up. No. Increase the supply, i.e. the harvest, the post-processing, getting food to the cities from the towns, from these places where they are harvested, then the food prices will fall. If you don't do that, food prices will stay up, inflation will stay up. You don't fight food inflation by raising interest rates. That's a misdiagnosis. You're not giving the patient the right medicine. You've got to increase supply. You have rice mills, you don't have rice paddy. Focus on the rice mills. Why don't you have rice paddy? Because the effing bandits are in the fields. So go and take the bandits off the fields so that the farmers can go back to farm and then supply the paddy to the rice mills. You have the largest rice mills but no farmers. Makes no sense. Engineer Zach, good floor, sir. Engineer Zeke, sorry. Engineer Zeke.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Kalu.
Hey, how do you, sir?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed the lecture this night. I just wanted to add a little thing, which it's one thing that really bothered me about what's going on in the country. The level at which we have a spending issue in the political space, where we only talk, bring policies that at the end we take in lots of money and nothing works. You like Olumide just mentioned, in terms of loan and banks calculating their risk and everything. One, if you have an economy that is unstable, you don't have population data, you don't even, as it is now, somebody can walk into a loan, walk into a bank, get a loan, tomorrow is nowhere to be found on the radar. So all these are the things that banks are afraid of to give loan. It's something that really affected us, and trying to start a business, it has affected us. And second, like the first point I wanted to make, this one is just chipping in. We have this issue of overspending in government, which is really affecting us. We have governments planning, money go into it, and nothing is being done. These are things that needs to be looked into. We have currently flood issue, which is something I believe the government can take advantage of. If you have excess water in a country in the same country that everybody wants something to work, if you have excess water, it's natural common sense for you to go and create dams to prevent excess flood. This thing, I believe I saw a statistic, less than $1 billion should be able to get a reasonable dam. I saw somebody give a statistic online. I can't really pinpoint to give a direction to the place. To be able to create a dam. This dam is enough for irrigation. You can get your hydropower from this dam. And one good thing about it is you're creating jobs. You're solving flood problem. You're creating jobs. You're getting food to your people. But I can't fathom why a country would see this problem. We keep talking of palliative, we keep talking of relief material. Nothing is being done. So it's one of the major things I feel. One, if it is not addressed, we'll continue talking and talking and talking. The people in the political business will continue getting the money, because the best thing they do is come to the media space, do all their own analysis to get money approved, and once it's approved, you have abandoned projects, variation upon variation, and the next year, the whole story continue. So I believe, one, to get an economy that works, the kind of people we put in our government matters. Second, the kind of policies that are made, how we hold them accountable matters a lot. So all these things put together, like by the time you look at the whole thing, start looking at it from the local perspective, it's so crazy that you believe nothing is going to work again. That's just it. So I believe the major focus. Hello? You with me?
Go ahead. Round up, sir, if you don't mind.
Okay, all right. So I believe one thing that is really, really, really paining me is this. We have these challenges. They know that these are the problem. Why are they not working on it?
Good question.
You made mention of creating infrastructure for mass housing. As an engineer, I can tell you, creating a road passing the community alone, both direct and indirect employment, it's huge. It's a lot. You understand? But I don't know why these things, they know it and they are not doing it. That is just the major thing that I said I should bring up. Maybe there's even a better explanation to it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for contributing. I mean, we don't know why too. Our job is just to say what's going on and hopefully try to nudge and push. But these things are not rocket science. It's not. They're not that difficult. Mr. Basse, how you doing, sir? Mr. Basse, a woman. Go ahead, sir.
Yes. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Carlo. Good evening, Olamide. Nice to have you here. I'm going to say.
Go ahead.
Yes. I'm going to say something, then I'm going to ask a question. I think Olumide and you have highlighted on this fact, and it's like there is no way we are going to run from it about the political industry. There is no way that you're going to, have very interesting, beautiful, ultra-modern policies, and the monies meant to execute policies are embezzled. I remember reading a book by on China's Gilded Age, and the lady that authored the book talked about types of corruption, and how the third type of corruption, which is embezzlement and extortion, which are non-productive types of corruption, they wreck a nation. A situation in which the budget lines of, all budgets from federal to state to local levels are designed to line the pockets of politicians. There is no way policy is going to work. Because what are you going to use to execute it? From reliable data from CSOs and all these other organizations and all that, 80% of corruption in Nigeria is linked to public procurement. Supply this, do this, and all that. So I think that is the big elephant in the room, and I really understand when lots of finance people, economics types, they skirt around all of this, but this is the real issue plaguing the Nigerian system. The money is meant for, in fact, sorry to digress, during the elections, a certain candidate went to a state. Mr. Carlo, you've been talking about how it is terrible that up until now we are still using rainwater, relying on the rains for agriculture. She was engaging with industrialists and stakeholders, and one of them told him something. He said, they have 22 dams in the States from the 80s up until then, and till date, none of them have been working. 22 dams. I digress. That's all I wanted to say. Now, my question is, with respect to the increase in crude oil prices, I want want to know on what price was a Nigerian budget predicated for crude oil, and from that price and what is being sold now, the difference, why isn't a corresponding increase in the Nigerian excess crude accounts? Why are we not seeing something in that direction? Yeah, thank you.
Simple answer, because you are paid a subsidy. Simple answer, because the idea is that when you sell crude oil at $100, the NNPC takes the $100 and pays the subsidy. So it comes in and goes out right again. They even take and they borrow more. Hence, your excess crude accounts cannot grow and you cannot get any revenue flowing into your coffers. I mean, Emefiele had a famous tweet where he says they've received no revenues from crude oil sales in a while. I think he posted out a long time ago. JP Morgan, before they even published their annual report about credit of Nigeria, their research reports, they are told their investors in an internal memoranda that Nigeria was the only oil company, Nigerian NNPC was the only oil company that had benefited from the increase in crude oil prices in the world following the Ukraine invasion, but had not made the remittance to JP Morgan. JP Morgan is a banker for NNPC, so they know how much we bank with them. They basically said, hey, these guys, their oil price has gone up, but they haven't banked any money. That's why you don't see any difference. The benchmark price is $75 a barrel. So between $75 a barrel and $93 a barrel, we should have money flowing to the excess crude. I already tweeted that I'm going to look at that excess crude account in 3 months and see if money flowed in. But the point is, no money can if you have subsidy, and subsidy is bad. Because Olumide has pointed out, if oil prices go up and local prices stay the same, then there's a subsidy. Simple answer. All right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Olumide, did you have anything to add on that? All right, so guys, we're going to wind down at top of the hour. We're nearly there. Just going to have Mr. Evolution. You got the floor, and then we'll just sort of round it up. I just want to thank everyone who has hopped in here to speak. Evolution, you got the floor, sir. Go ahead. Your hand is raised up. Evolution.
Okay. Yes. The reason I actually raised my hand immediately is to vehemently disagree with the last thing that you said. Because the NNPC, what they do is that we have 440-something thousand barrels allocated to the 3 refineries in Nigeria for domestic consumption. It is that volume that they export and they give it to intermediaries. They take it, they refine, and they give back products. So it's not as if they buy the so-called products, the PMS that we consume with dollar.
Let me explain, just for people that are listening. Subsidy is paid by the Federation, not the NNPC. The Federation, meaning the federal, state, and local governments pay subsidy. When Nigeria exports crude oil, we get revenues in dollars. If you look at the sheet, the budget sheet, you see right there, revenues comes in. Where does the revenue go to? The NNPC, on behalf of the Federation, will debit the Federation and say, for running this fuel subsidy based on the volume important Nigerian ports, I have debited the Federation X amount of dollars. They then take the money out again. So the money comes in through oil sales, the money goes out through subsidy payments, which is managed by the NNPC. Don't take my word for it. Pull up the budget sheet of the federal government of Nigeria or the budget office. You will see numbers right there. I will do a screenshot and share with you as well. So whatever they share, this 414 you're talking about, I don't know about that. I know it exists, but the point I'm making to you is this. The NNPC debits the Federation account for subsidy, because you even look at the revenue, you see the NNPC doing refunds of excess debits. Sometimes they debit too much, they refund back to the Federation account that excess debit. That's the reality. If they are doing it wrongly, I don't know. I'm just giving you the reality. It's not my opinion. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Let it not be a back and forth thing. But I can equally assure you that NNPC
gift allocations, okay, of crude oil to companies that are meant to take it to
reform. You're talking of duke trading. It's not enough. The 414 is not enough for the subsidy. That's what I'm saying. The volume that duke trading is doing is not enough because according to the NNPC, we have about 68 whatever million or whatever consumption. So when they sell that crude oil to refineries, they were supposed to get a swap deal. The point I am making is what is important to Nigeria, the cost of that is more than the revenues we earn from that allocation you are talking about that NNPC gives to Duke to sell for the subsidy. That's what I'm saying. I'm not disputing what you're saying that we give out barrels to swap. But the volume of subsidy envelopes that allocation you're talking about.
Okay, yeah. Let's move on, okay? The initial conversation, somebody was trying to make a point about the banks having their responsibility to their shareholders and all that. I mean, it is a zombie argument, really. I mean, these are Washington consensus narratives that we keep on regurgitating. The reason why the banks exist in the first place is because you and I are putting money in the bank. If you and I go and withdraw all our money, the bank will cease to exist immediately. They don't exist because the CBN has licensed them. They exist because you and I are banking with them. So when it comes to them anyways, let's not go into too much details. The reality is that the state capture that we see in every aspect of the nation has happened a long time ago in the banking system. The banking system has been captured, the entire system. And if you need proof, look at the things that they finance, look at the things that are important to them, economic activities that they don't finance anything. They are not interested. Their interest is exactly doing what captured sectors and industry do, and it's never in the interest of the nation. It's never. If you think that your shareholders are much more important than the operating environment where they are actually making the money. And anyways, I could not join on time. Maybe next time I would have enough time because I know that you're about to close. Thank you.
No problem. I mean, again, remember, banks are companies set up by shareholders that own them. A bank is not Father Christmas. So even though we expect that the bank will invest, will have guidelines, yes. But banks are set up by investors. They chase profits. The problem is that credit is needed by the economy to grow. So even though we want the banks to give out a loan, I don't want my bank to give out loans to people that are not going to pay. The bank, I have my money. I don't want to do that. In the US, they do guarantees. The bank will give out loans, and the government will guarantee you to push credit out there. That works, and we have it in Nigeria as well. We have a CBN guarantee on agricultural loans. We should do more of that. But the banks own private capital. Yes, that one, it's difficult. Banks make money. They are private sector, but they are very, very important. And we need them. So banks are too big to fail. You might not like it, but that's the reality. And we have to look for a way to bring that more of them, more private capital into the economy so the economy can expand. When we have credit that is cheap and long-term, the economy can expand. It's just the reality of it. I think your comments are good, but it is what it is, as they say. Yeah. Take care, sir. You go ahead and speak. We're going to shut down. Yeah. Go ahead and speak, sir.
Yeah. Good evening. Good evening, Carlo, and everybody in the space. I just wanted to. I know we've been talking about subsidy and the economy of Nigeria, but there are two major points. I want maybe you can have the space on this, on topic on that, and see how we can start channeling the conversation into something that is not more productive, but productive driven. Now, we've talked about subsidy, we've talked about the agro sector. The agro sector is not being, government is doing zero as far as I'm concerned, in the agro sector. You can have all these nice statistics on how much loan you're giving out, how much financing has been given to this and that. But if you look at the most basic parts of the agriculture that we practice in Nigeria, we have assets that nobody's even trying to consider or to utilize. The asset I'm talking about is the River Niger and, our waterways. You can reduce costs of moving agro produce from the producing sectors to the consuming sectors if only you desilt our waterways. Look at almost every week I look at the Nigerian map from my computer and I just shake my head. All the way from Sokoto down to the Delta, everything is silted up. Everything is just silted up. The dams are not working. Farmers will tell you that, they do irrigation farming. But they do it by the grace of nature, not even by science, not even with control. Because the mini dams that they have, it's so silted that the trickles come out of that. So you see you're doing irrigation farming. We're not doing irrigation farming. And I'm going to keep this very, very short. We're talking about subsidy. Government needs to switch from subsidizing petroleum and energy to subsidizing production in agriculture. In the US and in most other Western countries, agriculture is heavily subsidized. There's a reason America is the king of corn. The amount of subsidy that goes into corn production in America, it's insane. It's more than the budget of some countries. On just corn subsidies alone, insurance subsidy on corn alone is an industry that is mind-boggling. Why are we not subsidizing agriculture from the producing perspective to reduce the most basic thing to make the economy work, which is the cost of food, cost of living? So I just want to throw that out in there. Maybe one day you can have a space on what America and what the West is doing with subsidizing agriculture, all the different dimensions of it, and how can we use the assets we have with our waterways to reduce the cost of transportation that ties straight and goes directly into the cost of food in the country. Thank you.
Nice one, sir. I think if you check even not just our space, but everyone on social media, you're going to see tons of subsidy Nigeria has done for agriculture. If it's by programs, we've done everything in Nigeria for agriculture. If it's by programs, from finance programs to tractors to elimination of tariffs, we've done everything. Even this talk you're talking about, this distilting, moving of goods through waterways, we have all those plans and all that. I think the problem in Nigeria is the implementation, right? Where we have the plan, but we don't then follow through and execute. The internal execution, which is now on the shoulders of the ministers and the commissioners at the state level, not just at the state, because most of these waterways go through local governments, through states, just the implementation. But again, I go back to Mr. Additional, the past Minister of Agriculture. He opened Nigeria's eyes to what a minister could do in agriculture. He started this dry season rice farming that we're now using in Nigeria to increase the output for rice in Nigeria. Lots of things that he did. New seeds, new stems for agriculture, linking this agriculture to GDP, attracting FDIs into agriculture. We need to do more of those things that have worked. So, it's just the implementation. We do a lot, or we say a lot, but we don't do it. And that's just where we are taking. If someone can do his job and not gallivant around the whole world taking pictures, just sit down and do your job with the money they're giving to you. If you can't do it, attract the private sector to come in and do it, and just get one or two things. Do it well. Just want to do it well. You'll see a change. But one guy comes, he'll say his own plan is to do this, he'll scrap the other guy's plans, and then we just keep on going in a circle. Olumide, you've got the floor, sir.
Yeah, I just want to round up and just say that I think a lot of listeners need to understand that we want the president to be successful. In fact, it's our interest for the president to be successful. And it also, to the president, you need to have a flexible view on how you view criticism. You see, they've also had a very bad way of receiving criticism. Everything is not battle. You don't divide the nation by just throwing tantrums on social media. The major issue here is that we have an uneducated population and a population that is full of energy. Just imagine the average Nigerians love tech. The average Nigerians is aligned to the Western values. We've not monetized that. Germany had two world wars. Germany had a couple of setbacks, but this is Europe's most powerful economy. Why? They have an apprenticeship program built on education. They don't really value all these chasing certificates up and down, but the knowledge skill is on top. And that's what Canada is really doing. You see the way Canada is taking our brightest middle class, taking our working class, and we are just sitting back. Look at Canada in the last decade ago. If you look at Canada, I'll close with this. I feel like, you see, we just need to start from the easiest thing. That's why when we were talking about AI, all these things, it looks like cosmetics to me, because I know the importance of AI. In fact, I'm an heavy investor in AI. You look at US stocks. But the reality is that a country that cannot even pay Google uses 15 terabytes of energy. That is 7 or 4 times what Nigeria consumes here. So the question is, start from the basics. Education is horrible. So rather than spending money on private jets, you can work with MTN, Starlink, network the whole country, make teleconference education compulsory, basic education. The 20 million kids you denied education because of classrooms, and you can automate that by empowering teachers, and that will create a lot of jobs and optimize creativity. You see all these Bonner boys and things like this. I think it's just going to start, But you see, we've lived in a country where we feel that we have good money, and data is telling us that we are very poor. Elitism is in a country where dogs are trying to show that they have Rolls Royce. Will not take us anywhere. We need to start from the reality that, see, education is our saving grace. Anything else, I feel that we are just playing, and that's the honest truth.
Yeah, look, I did a tweet where I said Nigerians want, number 1, clean water, number 2, cheap food, number 3, affordable housing, number 4, just a school they can take their kids to teach them maths. Basic things. Not even, you see, power supply doesn't even come among the first 3 things Nigerians want. Clean water, food, house. We're still at Maslow level in Nigeria. Maslow, i.e., just give us clean water so we don't die of cholera. Give us cheap food so at least we can survive. Give us a house just so we can put our belongings and reins in peace. That's where we are. It's difficult on Twitter to say things, because once you say things, people come at you. Oh, go back to Anambra. Oh, you are attacking. Oh, you are doing this. But you are bringing that and saying, guys, this is wrong. This is wrong. Change. But no, I don't listen. It's my time to chop. My brother is in power. Before the elections, I said on Twitter, if you elect someone, he will do this, and this. Naira will change. This will happen. They did the half measures. It hasn't worked and all that. Nigerians just understand that the world is moving on. No one's going to care again. Everyone's going to Canada. Our savior might come from Canada and Nigeria or US. Wait, going on, a kid that moved with his father to Canada will be appointed Secretary of State or Minister of Justice. You just only passed the one law that will stop corruption in Nigeria, to say if you have a foreign account, you must disclose that account. Once you pass a law that allows the public disclosure of accounts of Nigerian or foreign officials in banks abroad, you kill corruption. Why are you afraid if it's disclose it now? Why are you keeping money abroad? Disclose it. If you're a government official, disclose it. If you're not, don't take the appointment. Because we said 80% of corruption comes from government procurement. So if you want to work for the government, the law already says you should not have a foreign bank account. The law already says once you are paid by the federal government or the state government or the local government, you are not supposed to have a foreign bank account. It's not just a law, it's in the Constitution, managed by the Code of Conduct Bureau. But it's there for a reason. If you are a police guy, army guy, judge, president, advisor, you should not have a foreign bank account, because we want to fight corruption. But let me bring it back to just the opportunity that Nigeria is sitting on. I went to Ekiti State. if you haven't gone to Ekiti State, if you go there, it's just beautiful. It's like Switzerland. You see mountains, very calm environment, very nice, green environment. You could go to that place, right, and create a sub ecosystem for education. You build like 10 schools in that place, and then you say this, you are going to charge maybe very, 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 like maybe $5,000 a term whole year. Target to foreigners. Build world-class schools in that Ekiti State, right? Target foreigners. All these folks in Malawi, all these countries will come to Nigeria, and you can educate them because you have tons of teachers here that you can employ the very, very best. Free land, you build the schools, you attract foreigners to come here and learn the same stuff they will learn in America. So it's cheaper in Nigeria, right? Then the Nigerians then pay half price. So you build out an ecosystem of just education, not oil and gas, not agriculture, just education in the country. For a state like Ekiti, it's very, very cheap. Put an airport there. People can fly in, go to school. You bring in those world-class schools to Ekiti or whatever it is, right? You brand name schools in that place there. You get an ecosystem. Give it 4 or 5 years, right? You build the whole infrastructure. Give it another 10 years. It becomes known. You see folks living in African countries coming here to study because they don't have to travel. They can come here, pay the same foreign currency here in Nigeria, and then you basically educate them, and then you subsidize your own local students from that school. This guy's church, the guy that died, what's his name? Apostle, the one that does predictions, that died, was getting more forex. I don't know what's his name. The one that does footballers.
TB Joshua.
TB Joshua's church has more forex than many banks. So attracting more forex than many banks in Nigeria. So when you see that, what do you do if you're an innovative guy? You go to TB Joshua and say, okay, TB Joshua, I'm going to give you CBD license. I'm going to give you you might laugh. Give him a foreign exchange license. Give him, what can we do around TB Joshua's church? That when those foreigners come, they can stay. Right now, you have people living in America to go to Ecuador because it's cheaper in Ecuador. So why can't you do the same? Why can't you say, okay, around TB Joshua's church, we're going to have an enclave where we're going to put American-style homes. You can come there and live there as an American retiree. Let Social Security pay your funds directly to this place, and we'll give you a maid, we'll give you medical care, but you are at 1/3 of the cost of living in America. Lots of opportunities. They will fly here because they won't associate with that guy in that place. And after 10 years, we'll forget that it was set up because of TB Joshua. But it's just there. You have education, you have healthcare, even adult family homes. In America, it's a big thing. You can come and set up an adult family home and bring those old people here. They get cheaper care here because your labor costs here are lower. You build world-class innovative stuff, and you bring people here. Tinapa is wasting. You can convert Tinapa to something else and use it to attract world-class investment that will come in. Repurpose that place. It doesn't have to be import anymore, right? They're not going to get licensed. Maybe turn it to an adult family care center. You have nurses, you have doctors. Bring them all there. Keep them there. Tropical Africa. They all have one maid. They will pay to do it. That's forex coming in. That's thinking outside the box. Not all this oil gas thing. We're doing all over the place. And that's the point I'm trying to make. We're moving a bit too slow. And if we can do things faster, maybe perhaps it does help us. That's just what I want to say. Michael, you have a thought?
Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity. So, continuing from where you stopped, you see, I think one of the can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I think one of the cause that has happened to us after our political structure, I think that would be the discovery of oil in Nigeria. Before we discovered oil, things were still fine. Immediately we get to see that, okay, there is something called crude oil in Nigeria. That was the beginning of our problem. And as a matter of fact, what did you say?
Are you sure?
Yes, of course. That caused a kind of diversion to us. It divided our attention. It ought to have been a plus had it been we have a good and functioning political structure and a system in place. But it's a kind of distraction to us. And having said that, we ought to have been able to, the best thing that can happen to any person is to get more opportunity or more resources, so to say. How do we have a functioning brain or good set of leaders when we discovered oil? We ought to have been able to manage the two, agricultural sector and the oil sector. If we are able to work on the two simultaneously, then we will not be here today.
Let me give you a story. When Nigeria found crude oil, Nigeria was the fastest growing region in the whole world. Correct. That was 1960, 1963. Nigeria was growing faster. The fastest growing region in the entire world. I agree. But even after we found oil, Nigeria was still growing fast. Right? Why do you think so? Because back then the laws were different. Back then, when you sold crude oil, you retained the revenues. So the eastern region, where the oil was found, retained the revenues, and then they paid a tax to Abuja. Guess how much the tax was? Guess how much? That's the reason why I'm asking to guess. Guess how much that tax was? That tax was 13%, 1-3. So the derivation that we now give to the oil states was actually the tax that they were paying to Abuja. It was not Abuja then, it was Lagos. They were paying to Lagos because they were exporting crude oil. So in states like Lagos had got the ports. When you export goods through Lagos retains the excess duties. That's how it was in the past. In 1965-67, when Lagos exports, they retain export duties. When Eastern region exports crude oil, they keep the revenues. So what happened was that, of course, the military came in, and what the military did was to say that when you now export crude oil or export through Lagos, the money goes to the central purse. So they decoupled activity from income. So if I have a farm and I grow groundnuts in Kaduna State in the past, if I export groundnuts, the money comes to me. So if you look at those pyramids in the past, we had a lot of groundnut pyramids. Why? Because we're exporting groundnuts, right? Why did the pyramids go away? Aflatoxin, we had a disease that came and infected the groundnuts, so we couldn't export. But the question is, why didn't the groundnut pyramids come back? Why didn't they come back? Nigeria was the number one exporter of peanuts. We then went to zero, absolutely zero. Why didn't they come back? Because someone told the governors, this is all the governors in Nigeria, you don't get any benefit from investing in agriculture. Your only benefit is to have children, population, and govern a state that has a large land mass. So we changed the fiscal federalism laws to say, we will give you money now, not based on derivation, but based on population and land mass. So if you're a governor of Kaduna State or Niger State that has a lot of land mass, in the past, you got money by planting groundnuts and exporting groundnuts. Then the money comes back to you in the state. You retain your revenues. Then you pay 13% to Lagos. They changed it. The military changed it from Gowon to Murtala and Obasanjo. They changed it to say, if you are the governor of Niger State, you get money by having the largest population and having the largest land mass. So as a governor, what do I focus on? Nigerian Population Commission. That's all I'm interested in. Once I get a good population, I already have a large land mass. I get revenues. I don't have to plant groundnuts. That's why the groundnut pyramids went away. The oil is how we said to share that oil revenues that caused this oil to then become the only thing. Because why should I waste my time as a governor to plant groundnuts? Why? For what point? Once I have population and I have the land mass, I get more money than you. If you take away crude oil derivation, Niger State gets more than a state like Port Harcourt. If you take away the derivation of crude oil. And that's the problem you have in the country. Nobody washes a car that they hire. If it's not your house, why would you take care of it? If they give you a house and they say, this house is just for you to stay in, you won't take care of the house, you won't paint it, it's not your house. But if they give you a house and they say, this house is yours, you paint it, you take care of it. Because the governors don't control the revenues. If you're a governor of your state, a company comes to your state to register, they have to go to Abuja to incorporate a company to operate in your state. So if I'm in the same Niger State, I want to plant groundnut, I have to go to CAC. I start a company, then come back to Niger State. Then when I don't farm, who do I pay my taxes to? I pay my taxes to, if I'm a company, income tax federal. The state cannot tax my income. The local government cannot tax my income. Only the federal government can tax my income. VAT is a different matter, but my income is only taxed by the state, but so by the federal. So you see how we've removed the states and local governments from the local. That's why you don't see them warring. The governments are not that bad, but it doesn't make any sense as a government to focus on agriculture. It doesn't make, why is it, it's not going to give you any money. The private sector can create jobs in your state, then you can tax them. That is true, but that's a long journey. All I have to do is make sure that during in population, I count and I have a large population, and I'm okay. And this is the laws of Nigeria. Whatever you measure and reward, that's what you're going to get. But if you measure and you reward population, then you get lots of kids outside the streets. That's basically it. If you measure and you reward derivation, you get that. Let me close by saying, President Shagari going to pass a law that says that we share derivation according to primary school enrollment. Guess what happened to him in 1983? So, Michael, does that give you a bit of clarity? You know, we have to look at the holistic picture of why things are going wrong in Nigeria. It's not enough to just look at it, but the whole picture gives us a very, very better base to say this is what's going on, this is why we are where we are. If you simply look at just oil, oil is never the problem. Even if we make $1 trillion a barrel today, we're not going to have development as long as the federal government is the only body in Nigeria that sets taxes and collects taxes. Look at your VAT on consumption is collected by the federal government, then shared back to you in consumption in your state. So Lagos State will build a road. You drive on that road, you consume that road, then the federal government will tax that road, take it to other states, then give Lagos a share. Doesn't make any sense. So you can't have an economy that way for long term and hope for. So the structure of Nigeria, where I'm going to that, the structure of the country itself is not designed to develop. The structure of the country is not created. Why would Ekiti go and build a school? Cross River did Tinapa. So Cross River did Tinapa. It wasn't a field project. They built it. They did their part, and they said, federal government, give us tax clearance so that we can import things into Cross River and sell. Government did not give them. Federal government dredged the river to Calabar Port so that ships can come to Calabar Port and Tinapa. Federal did not do it. So who failed? Cross River did their own, but the federal did not dredge. The federal did not give them tax clearance papers. That's why Tinapa died. But they nowadays, can any state government build a Tinapa today? When they built Tinapa, they didn't have crude oil. They still don't have crude oil. That's Cross River. They still didn't have crude oil. They built Tinapa using the first zero-coupon bond in Nigeria's history. Very innovative project. And then the federal government failed them. So why should you as a governor waste your time doing all those kind of projects? Why? That's the point. Hope that makes sense. All right, guys.
Yeah, it actually does, but I'm so sorry. I would like to add one more thing. You actually made my point when you said our system is not built for development. That's 100%. And you see, there are some other countries that have developed today, and it is not because they are too innovative. They just imitate what has happened in other countries, and they are fine today. So, but now our system is so bad that, okay, let's say for instance, another point I was going to mention, when a government or a system is able to meet the basic needs of its population, the next thing to come is development of human capital, and that is not in our dictionary today. You see, the reason why Obafemi Awolowo is in the lips of every Nigerian today, it was because it set a structure that would develop our human capital, which was the free education. So a few of the people that have sense enough to try what they are doing today in terms of developing Nigeria are the product of education, free education by Awolowo. And let me put this on board. You see, we'll be worried in the next 30, 40, 50 years when we begin to see results of the people that are getting into higher institutions with JAMB score of 100, of 80, of 120. Can you imagine? So we are eating, we are disturbing ourselves now. Yeah.
Your next, I don't want to cut you off. Your next leaders are the kids sleeping on the streets all across Nigeria.
Yes. That's what we are saying. So they are not even in school. So the problem now is if they are not getting it right now, it can't get better.
Well, let us pray now. We will pray it will change. But I just believe that from Canada or the US will come a kid that his father took him there, and that boy will become something, and he will come and pass a law from there that will change how we operate here. I have no, sorry to say, I have no confidence that the way it's set up now, that we can have a change organically. I think there has something external with someone that has power, has to come in and change. I'm not talking of all this nonsense to cool. No, I'm talking about there has to be a sea change. Nigeria has not built the most important road in Nigeria. It's the road from Lagos to Ibadan. It's an express road. Lagos to Ibadan is the most important road in all of Nigeria. Why? That's where the ports are. So anything you import, the bulk of your imports go through Lagos. The road from Lagos to Ibadan is supposed to be a quote-unquote express road. From 1999 to today as I'm speaking, Nigeria has not completed that road. From 1999, the PDP ruled, then the APC ruled, now the APC is still ruling. So all the parties are involved. I'm not blaming APC, I'm not blaming PDP. But from 1999 till today, Nigeria has not completed the road from Lagos to Ibadan. We are celebrating that trains are taking containers from Lagos port to Ibadan. We are celebrating in the year 2023. The largest economy in Africa is celebrating trains carrying container. We still haven't built the road. What's the Minister of Works saying today? That he wants to build a new coastal road. He has abandoned the east-west road that is not completed. He wants to start a new coastal road from Lagos to wherever, but he has not fixed the Lagos to Ibadan. Name any nation on earth that would not fix its most important road, even Congo. In how many years is this?
Please, my brother, add that it is 127 kilometers. Just 127 kilometers, not more than that.
Ibadan, they haven't fixed it. Do you think China would take this long to fix that road? True story. You see, there's a guy I bring this guy's story up all the time. His name is Chris Woods. This guy came from China to Nigeria with nothing, because Nigeria in the 1970s was America, was like modern, and China was having famines. If you Google it, Nigerians as of 1970 were richer than the Chinese. Nigeria had flyover. Do you know what flyover is in Lagos? Only a few nations on earth had them. When Nigeria built the flyovers, we had no cars like that too. We built them in anticipation that cars will come, the economy will grow. Chinese sent people to Nigeria to look at the flyover bridge in Lagos and understudy how they were built. So they would go to China and build them. Google it. His name is Chris Woods. I think he's the chairman of the Chinese Nigerian Trade Commission or whatever. He has a very long story. He tells you how he came to Nigeria and he was surprised to see people driving cars. In China, they used to ride bicycles. He goes to people's homes. They had fridge in their homes. He hadn't seen a fridge in China. This is he came to Nigeria in 1970. Now Nigeria has regressed. We're now borrowing money from China to build train. That's train, choo-choo train in Nigeria. This same country that Chinese came to look at overhead bridge. We're now, I don't know, man. So, you see, Twitter is an annoying place because when you say things, instead of people to literally say, this is wrong, let's fix it, they'll tell you, my brother is in power. What? Are you not suffering? Oh my God, I don't want to start. Only with that vaccine, I don't want to start because they will just say we're doing politics. But don't you guys see what the problem is? Don't you see where you are going to? Don't you see this is not going to end well? Your country, Buhari left. I put an open challenge on Twitter, $10,000. Name one macroeconomic indicator that improved in 8 years under Buhari. Name one macroeconomic that he improved under Buhari? One. No one can name any. One. 8 years. We didn't stand still. We went back. 8 years. And people are just on Twitter, praising a human. Everything is you can't call people out. You can't say this is wrong. We're not serious in Nigeria. We are not serious at all. We are not serious at all. That's why we're in the problem. The issue is not subsidy or inflation. It's Nigerians. We're not serious. When we get serious, we'll know. But for now, we're not. Olumide, I just want to thank you. I mean, I'm not going to show the space. I'll be here for 2 hours and 45 seconds. I just want to thank you for taking time to talk on the topic of the CBN, Nigerian banks. I think we'll focus on UBA, and we'll use UBA sort of to talk about how the banks have developed themselves to the extent whereby this particular bank was able to take advantage of what was a bad situation, right? They have a stellar result. The results are very, very good. And it's also because the bank has invested in human capital to also take advantage. Lots of companies did not take advantage. We're not saying they are bad, but the point we're making is you've got to take advantage of what's in front of you, and UBA did that. So again, the economy. So if you want to just speak, yeah, sure, then we'll take it.
Just closing remark. I think while we give the banks credit, I think we shows the importance of reforms. You know, when Obasanjo came in and brought in Soludo, you could see the agility and the tenacity on making sure those structural reforms took place. And at that time, it was looking very painful. A lot of people said, loss of jobs, the fact that the number of banks went under. But we could see now that Nigerian banks are just behind Egypt and South Africa, and they're expanding. That shows you the gains of reforms and corporate governance. So, and that's why I don't put my money beyond banks in Nigeria. I don't invest in most things. Any other things are comic, because corporate governance, discipline, intellectual capacity is one of the things investors look at to make. So if other sectors of the economy really want to work, we also need to take corporate governance seriously. And it's virtually empty in many of the industries. So I think we need to give the banks kudos. And Carlo, thanks for having me. And I think, we can only pray for President Buhari, President Tinubu, as he gets to the United States. He really needs to talk to investors, and he needs to show potential. So far, the reforms are not showing. Because if you look at the bonds, Euro bonds, look at FPI, FDI, it tells you that investors are not even blinking.
Yeah, and only that report that the UK guys wrote, that they took Nigeria off the frontier markets. They mentioned that they did that because the reforms have been paused. They wrote something in there that says that, hey, we think it's not going to go back, but they paused the reforms, like the fuel subsidy. That was that report, right?
Yeah. On spot. In fact, I was on the broke. Yes, you're right. And pretty much was all about the FX market. That was what we were saying. And that just tells you that you can't deceive foreign investors. You know, you can't wait. The world has gotten smarter day by day. So I think it has gone beyond PR. And lastly, the president, when he's dealing with the financial community, I think he needs to play somebody up. He needs to have since he has so many social media strategies, that he understands how to speak to the financial community. The way they did CBN off, the way they've been doing the financial communication has been off.
Yeah, you're not, because you're the CEO doesn't mean you should talk to the press. You know, that's one thing. So they need a guy that understands how to talk money, to talk for the CBN and for Nigeria. The presidential spokesman, if you don't know it, don't put the guy out there. Someone has to speak money. I remember when the Minister of Finance in Nigeria went abroad and said, what did she say economically that Nigeria was going to, call back the loans? She used the word. And the whole market.
Yeah.
You're right. What word did she use? She used the word, and the entire press people asked her, Madam Minister, please can you confirm? To her, that word was an innocuous word, but you don't just use it. You don't say we're going to call back. She used the she used the word we're going to I don't know. I'm going to Google it. She used that particular word, and the market crashed. The bonds crashed because she did to them. She was saying that Nigeria was going to reissue bonds and get a haircut. That's what they thought she said, but she didn't mean it that way. The same thing right now. You've got to be very careful how you speak. Why would the CBN governor say that Nigeria is going to clear $10 billion obligations in 2 weeks? Was he going to issue bonds in 2 weeks? Was he going to cancel the operation in 2 weeks? What did he mean by that? I mean, the press took it and ran with it. No one asked him, what do you mean by this? Now he's resigned, I hear. So we'll never understand what he means. Maybe the plan was there and then someone told him, you can't do this. If you do this, the country will just crash. But still, you can't say that now. You can't say that. So they need to speak better. And I wish him, like I said, I wish the president the very, very best. He's going to America. That's the center of, forex. I wish he would also look at the Eastern guys. He's gone to India, very, very powerful. He should go to China. He should go to the Middle East. That's where the money is. You're right. America, people just speak too much English. Try to also go to the Middle East. Try to also go to China and also try to get investment from them. We have a long relationship with those other countries. Get investments in, pass those reforms, get them flowing. Once you start to create, it's like cascade, an avalanche. Once one comes, two comes, three comes, and everybody starts to come. A few years ago, everyone was rushing to come to Nigeria. A few years ago, to Japan was reversed. Now it's the other way around. People are all taking off to go there, right? G is a small company. I hear it's going to G. G is a very, very small company. You should go to the big boys and get a lot of Nigerians abroad that would love to take him around. Go talk to diaspora. This is only we're back to this. You cannot denigrate people in Nigeria, then go to the diaspora abroad and speak nice. If we drop the toxicity on social media, why should the Nigerian president not go to, say, Amazon or Microsoft, where we have lots of Nigerians, and those Nigerians will have a united front? I saw when the Indian president went to America. He went to Google. It was like he was in Gujarat or whatever. How do they know? They coalesce. Once their guy is there, you see the Ro Khanna as a Democrat and Vivek Vishwakarma as a Republican. They come together. This is India. We're going to push India. So when a Nigerian guy goes abroad, the Nigerians abroad also should say, hey, we're going to drop all these things and just push our guy to get investments back to Nigeria. And it's not helping. This Twitter or social media toxicity is not helping. Where anything you post, what's your tribe? It's not helping, guys. We need to, whether you like the president or not, we live in Nigeria. If inflation goes up, it affects PDP, APC, and Labour. If inflation goes down, it affects all parties. So we must work for Nigeria to succeed. Then the politics will take care of itself. But I'm more focused on the country has got to work. There's just too few jobs, too much crime, and there's just lots of opportunity not taken care of. So that's just my take, guys. All right, folks. Thank you so much. If you are interested, there are a few guys that want to organize a trip to India. It's not BRICS per se. It's an association. They want to organize a trip to India for Nigerian businessmen. It's like there's going to be a conference in India. These guys are Brazilians. They're going to take you guys there. They want to organize visas. They want to organize, what else? One-on-one visit if you want to visit the particular Indian company. They are working on the details. And if they are available, we'll bring them to you, bring them on a space so they can talk to you folks. If you want to go, right, they will show up. It's going to be a package deal. Then you can go for that conference. So keep that in your calendar and keep that in mind. Next week, I have to bring a gentleman I've been trying to bring on the space for a long time to talk about his company. So as long as he's here next week, I'll announce his name. But for now, we'll just keep it open. And Olumide, again, thank you so much. I know I call you really at odd times, and I thank you for accepting and also sharing your knowledge with us. And again, guys, we're all patriots. We all love Nigeria. Thanks so much for hanging out with us for about 3 hours so far. In closing, do get my book. I posted it because it will help you. It's titled Let's Talk About Your Money. Right now, it's only on Amazon. Look for it, get it. I try to write a book that would make it easy for you. If you don't know anything about investing, you read it, and then you basically learn how to do your asset allocations, how to do a budget from very, very simple language to even crypto, swaps, currency. It's all in there, So try to, you can't play a game without knowing your rules. If you don't know what FICO is, then you can't do credit. So you have to know stuff before you invest money in stuff, right? And that's the whole idea, to teach you stuff so that you can invest. I don't want to give advice, but I want to give you general broad guidelines. So even though we've mentioned UBAs, not advice, not to tell you to go buy or sell UBAs, just to give you the broad guidelines of how the country is working vis-a-vis the bank. The bank has done very, very well. If you want to take advantage of it, speak to your banker or broker tomorrow, Monday morning, but do that after you do your due diligence. All right, folks, I'll leave you guys and I'll take off. Go enjoy the rest of your Monday. Mondays are the best days. I wish you guys the very best. Olivide.